release the a large miner into concept. Stream froze? It shouldn't have. Literally nothing happened on my end. No drop frames, nothing. Everyone's freaking out. I didn't see it. Huh. Yeah, everything dropped. Let me fix the... So if you're watching this after the fact, on to YouTube, this was a drop and re-upload. That was really weird. Yeah, you had to revisit the link, I think. Yeah, that's really weird. I'm gonna have to fix that. That's not happened because like my internet didn't go down or anything like that. Huh. Yeah, I'm gonna go back here in a moment. Give me a moment. Let me fix this real quick. Gotta change the office hours title again. Go back to the studio and... Back to the studio! Well, I'm going to YouTube studio. YouTube studio. That sucks. I lost a lot of progress there. Delete that real quick. Delete forever. 30 minutes lost. It's all right. Welcome back, everybody. Yeah, it must have been Amazon servers. Office Hours 2, The Reckoning. 2 Office 2 hours. It could have been my ISP, yeah, because it was both at the same time, which is unusual. But usually my computer will freak out about the dropped calls, stuff like that. Anyways, let's go back. So let me give you my my impressions. I think we're going to get the cutter, which is going to be a light, a small... shuttle type craft competes with the Nomad, a 2-person, maybe slightly less cargo, but more guns, maybe a little bit faster. Then I think after that, we're going to get the C8 R, which will be the rescue variant of the Pisces. It's just something you can purchase. It'll just have a 1 size 3 bed in it, and that's about it. Maybe 2 size 3 beds, who knows? And then there is the, I think we're going to see the Argo MCV. The Argo MCV, I think is, I think the Argo MCV is a large constructor ship that's in the same vein as the Pioneer. But with the Pioneer, where it's like a mobile factory, I think this is also sort of a base building ship slash compartment, like component ship. So, like it'll build parts for vehicles, not necessarily vehicles, but like parts for ground stuff. Yeah, the cutter is almost certainly going to be larger than the starter ships, but smaller than the Freelancer and Cutlass. So, but can it build a deck? That's a good question, Del. That's a good question. I almost said y'all, but I caught myself. Y'all is infectious. It works. It's a super, it just flows, y'all. It just flows. It's the best word in the English language because it's the only word in the English language that means you plural that's just a word and not multiple words. Like Texas people, not the language. Moist is a pretty good word. But there's nothing like a nice southern drawl from a very attractive man going, "How y'all doing?" Or nice attractive lady going, "How y'all doing?" That's just shivers. I live in the South and y'all makes my skin crawl. I don't know. I like it. Shitters down my shaft. Toilet Tech isn't in the game yet. 3 years ago, I lived in Texas for 3 years, and I still say y'all. It's just super versatile word. Shitters down your spine does that same feel to it. That sounds like you're about to have some diarrhea. That's what shitters down your spine sounds like. Hey, Space Goat. All right, so MCV, and I think maybe the RSI minor will come back. I think we might see the RSI minor. That's a big maybe, though. WADA. Well, the thing is, like, WADA is just water. But, like, there aren't many you plural words in the English language. For those of you who speak other languages than English, you plural is often a word or kind of an thing you can add to a word to make it plural. There's not really that word in English. We just don't have that. So as a result, y'all, or I guess someone said yins, is the closest thing we have to a you plural. Could also mean singular, which is the fucked up part. It could mean y'all meaning you, but it could also mean y'all isn't like all y'all group. But yeah, use is like you have to add the gender at the end of it. Use guys, use gals. You don't just say use. You say use as in like you, or use like you use all. Official question. Please conjugate the two words, banana and apple. No. I am not an English. I am an English speaker, not an English teacher. Well, yeah, use guys. Use is a somewhere up there. Bapple would probably be the word. Bapple. Come to the office after the banter and the rants. Thank for the English lessons. Not even an English language lesson. It's more of a. I think it's a really good word. Two youds, yeah. Bapple's in the food kiosks in Star Citizen soon? Maybe. Oh, yee. Yeah, I guess you could say yee. All right. We might see the RSI large minor, as I'll say that. So, with that all being said, out of the way, let's get started with the... actually, you've only been streaming for a couple minutes, so I'll do this again. For those, because I deleted it again, this is the quick update. Welcome to the office hours again. This is a live stream. Update on my guard army. One of my commanders. He doesn't have a name yet. So I may ask chat to give him a name. Or he'll earn one in battle. His plasma doesn't show off very much because it's blue, which kind of gets hit with the green screen, but... Robert E. Lee. Billy Bob the Blaster Master. call him what he is, cannon fodder. Not the commander. Now that we have the Xi'an flight suit, do you think we'll get to see our first alien in the verse soon? Sooner than you think, I believe. Theodore. I like the name Theodore. But if my friend's trying to get me to 40K, any idea would be a good starter pack to be. All right, so Space Goat. I'm going to tell you this, which will make your friend mad, but that's fine. Ultra Marines. Ultra Marines. Tell him that you're thinking about getting Ultramarines, and it'll get you out of the hobby faster than you can imagine. No one likes the Ultramarines in the lore because they're the poster children. Literally the poster boys of 40K. If you see 40K and you see a big dude in armor with blue armor, that's an Ultramarine. But yeah, if you're really trying to get into 40K, tell your friend that you want to try to get Kill Team. Kill Team is like not necessarily a smaller version of 40K, but it takes a lot of the concepts that are in the 40K battle like board game and shrinks it down to about 10 models. Between like 5 and I think it's like 5 and 12 models maximum. They're pretty affordable to get. You get if you can get a Kill Teams, you can make them out of other boxes, but they also sell Kill Team boxes for various factions that you can use in the bigger game of 40K as well. So like just find, basically the best way to do what I would say doing is, if you want to get into it, Kill Team, but then just take a look at the store and find something you think is cool, right? You look there and go, I like these metal dudes with guns that walk around that are like skeletons. Necrons, cool, fucking go with Necrons. You cannot go wrong. Just pick whatever army you think is cool, the coolest, and things you're like, I'd like to paint that. Boom, you're done. It's that simple. What if his friends also watch you? That's just the general rule for that one that I would say. The other thing that I would suggest doing is, if you're worried about money, the cheapest ones to get into are the Custodians, the Space Marines, to a degree, the Necrons, and I would say maybe like the Sisters of Battle, and maybe the Eldar, but like Orcs, Guard, Genestealer cults, Tyranids, those are like the Horde armies. They get expensive quickly. Because like one box of 10 guardsmen is $40, and it can get, and you need like at least 3 in an army to function, at least 2 in an army, even for small point counts, and they're terrible. So you need like hundreds of them. Is Kill Team like the Space Marine board game used to be, an entry level into 40K? Very much so. Most Kill Team can be played. So the good thing about Kill Team is that Kill Team is, we're getting on the sidetrack. I'll sidetrack again, but I'll be very quickly about it. Kill Team is it takes between 60 minutes and 90 minutes. So it's about the same length as a typical board game you'd play with friends. It doesn't require much terrain. Its space is very small. It's only like 22 inches by 30 inches, I think, is the map size. So it's a very tiny map size. It can fit on most tables. And it does require a lot of terrain, but you can, if you buy the box sets, they come with plenty of terrain. But a lot of the terrain you can just kind of make out of whatever you want, like boxes and toilet paper tubes and those sorts of things you really need to. I think that's the biggest like barrier to 40K is to terrain, because good terrain really makes a game so much better. I haven't seen Squadron. I have seen Squadrons, the card game, but I've generally stayed away from it because I don't like card games, and they'll just leave it at that. Are the Kill Team uses simpler than the regular 40K rules? Slightly simpler. They still have fairly complex rules, but the concept is a lot simpler. Because it's smaller model numbers, it's a lot easier and faster to run and a little bit easier. Is Office Hours sidetracked? It's Office Hours sidetracked is the main discussion. Yeah. Orc players spend more money on dice than Custodians players spend on models. Yeah, and let me put it this way. I have 4 armies, 3 of which are almost fully painted. Over the course of, 3 years, but still, or 3 years. But still, that's basically an army a year. A little bit an army and a half a year. What was I going to say? Oh, and 2 of those armies I chose. My starter army coming back to the hobby was fucking Guard. And my second army was the Orcs. Like, I just said, fuck my life. I'm just going to be painting like little soldiers for fucking ever. The third army I painted was the Tau. So, which they're good. I'd like to play them more, but yeah. I like battle suits. I'm a big mecha fan, and they're the best. They have the best mechas in the entire game. Fight me. It's gonna be a newbie. You know the MTG Warhammer crossover? Not into card games either, but it does look interesting. Okay, let me see that. That's a baby carrier, not a mecha. Tau, son of a bitch. We're trying to get Tau. So fun. I like the Tau because battle suits are cool, but also the whole like lore behind him is nice. Though I do have another army which I haven't painted at all, which is Space Marines. But it's a Space Marines. It's a custom chapter of Space Marines because everyone's gonna get custom. But I decided to go a little bit, successor chapter sort of thing. Space Wolves successor chapter, but leaning into more Odin's Raven kind of thing. Odin's Ravens. You think we'll still get a UE Cuddy Red replacement? I think that's what the C8R Pisces is. Yeah, 100%. That's what it is. The Pisces Red. The Pisces Red. The Pisces Red. The Pisces Rescue is the UE replacement. Vulcan lives. Stomp, stomp. Vulcan is a unit. The Apollo isn't an ambulance. The Apollo is like a freaking it's a freaking clinic. It's a flying clinic, not an ambulance. It's much more of a MASH unit than an ambulance. Yeah. All right, let's turn off the music and let's watch this episode. I've actually toyed with the idea of them making them Raven Guard, but I figured I'm just going to go with the kind of Viking aesthetic with ravens as a big thing, a big key kind of element to them, and that way, if I want to play them as Space Wolves, I can play the Space Wolves. If I want to play them as Raven Guard or other successor, I can do that too. So I've already seen this episode, but I want to watch it again. Why is there no sounds? Oh, wait, because I'm an idiot. I can unmute the tab first.
In 318, the future is bright for cargo.
We're moving away from the simplistic implementation that we had before into something that's more of a real simulation.
With the new physicalized cargo, it opens doors for us to give some new gameplay. Cargo today is pretty basic. You go to a kiosk, you use an interface, you load your ship, it automatically loads. You get in that ship, you drive that ship to a port, and then you sell what you bought, but there's not a lot of interesting choices there.
With the current implementation, whenever we designed it, we did not have the tractor beams that we have now. What that meant.
Any chance we'll get to choose how our cargo is laid out in Cargo Grid with this now? Probably not. Not this implementation. I think future there. So
is that you're not able to pick up and manipulate the larger 1SU boxes. At the time, all that you could do was pick up the smaller 1/8
God
SU
bless
boxes,
Chad McKinney.
But this gave us a problem for piracy and looting in general, in that the really valuable things are sold and bought in these 1SU boxes.
I'm sorry. God bless Dr. Chad McKinney.
In higher volumes, but the only thing the player can actually pick up are the smaller ones. So what we had to do is a kind of hack.
Thank you for that raid, Suda. How you doing, buddy?
Such that when a vehicle
Welcome everyone to Pseudo Stream. We're watching some ISC. How y'all doing? Can we get a shout out for Pseudo Nick?
explodes, instead of generating the larger 1SU boxes on destruction, it actually generates the smaller ones in this kind of gamey, magical way, so that the player can actually go pick up some of the boxes from the destruction.
All right, let me give you an example. The C2 has 696 SCU, which equates to 5,000.
I believe Dan Griffiths is the new. He just introduced himself on Spectrum, like on Halloween, and he's like the brand new guy. He actually used to work for Star Trek Online.
568 1/8 SCU boxes that you have to loot. But the ship exploding should damage some of those boxes, and we want to have about 40 to 50% survive that explosion.
Yeah,
so that's still about 2,000 1/8 SCU boxes.
But then there's server performance issues to consider. So what we've actually been doing is capping that at 10% boxes being generated. However, on top of that, it's an incredibly tedious experience, because now that's, if you were to do the math, about 400 boxes that you have to go pick up, and collecting all of those by hand without a tractor beam.
I remember that. That sucks.
With the new system, we've gotten rid of the 1/8 SCU cargo containers. Everything is 1 SCU cargo containers. So in the case of the C2 with the 696 SCU, that would be 696 1 SCU boxes rather than 5,000 plus.
Every single one of those boxes is a real entity in the game, like any other entity in the game. It is tracked in the database as a persistent entity, now that we have the new persistent entity streaming architecture. And it means that now that they're entities that are persistent, they can be interactable. So now you can do things like use the tractor beams to pull them out of the cargo hold or put them into a cargo hold. It also means that whenever we do ship destruction with the new system, we don't have to generate anything. Instead, all that we do is we take the entities that were already created, and we just simply detach them from the cargo hold and let them float in space. Now, we still want to have some of that explosive destruction, so there's a certain amount of variable amount of that cargo that is destroyed on ship destruction.
We're actually giving you back somewhere, it's actually 0 to 90%, but that's calculated every time your ship explodes. So what happens then is now we're actually hitting that 40 to 50% number on average.
This means that both for players that want to reclaim the cargo that they lost on ship destruction, or for pirates that want to scoop up their ill-gotten gains, then they'll have an easier time to get at it, and there'll be more value there when they try to do so.
There is also the new commodity kiosk flow, which is a step in the right direction for helping you understand what you're buying and what you're selling and what's available at the places where you buy and sell commodities. It's the new UI, it's the new building block UI, so it should be a lot easier to understand, and gives you a graphical representation as you're buying and selling of how much space that you have on the ship that you're buying and selling into. 3.18 is not the end of the cargo refactor. There's lots of stuff that we're in the design process for right now, including manual loading and unloading, as well as automatic loading and unloading. We're also looking at some big box cargo missions that separate the cargo from the hauling professions, so that's something to look forward to. We have a lot more content coming that use these new features. We hope you enjoy it in 3.18.
And as a coda to all of that, Chris Roberts actually came by my desk the other day, and we talked a bit how it was unfortunate that
just Chris Roberts showed up on my desk the other day. That's nice flex there, Chad. Nice flex.
We even have to allow players to lose 40 to 50% of the cargo. And we talked and decided that we would try to come up with an interim solution on our path to physicalized damage that would allow us to leave the husks of ships behind on vehicle destruction instead of just exploding them and erasing all the contents. This would allow players to explore the ships and find the cargo and physically move it off the husks of the ships, rather than just generating a percentage of the boxes on destruction.
Like every other aspect of Star Citizen's...
I'm going to pause that real quickly, just kind of go over that real quickly. So, a couple of things I've seen people talk about. Why does this feel like a pirate-based than cargo hauling? Because this is about piracy. This is not about cargo hauling in whatever way, shape, or form. A couple of thoughts on this one. We'll have to know a little bit more about this, but I'm take this for what it's intended to be, not as an attack or a me being salty or anything like that. It's more of me being kind of looking at this from a perspective of, as someone who plays the game now, what will this do? I don't think this is much of a change. And pirates can correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to correct me in the comments below if you're watching this after the fact or if you're watching right now. But I think the majority of piracy is done against miners, not really haulers. And there really isn't a ton of people who do hauling because it's just not as valuable. And the amount of like return you get on haulers isn't nearly as much. So this does seem much more like pirate focused, but I don't think that's because they want to secretly make this a pirate update. I think the reason why it's more pirate focused is because that's what they can do right now. They've completely revamped the system to be what it needs to be now, but they haven't added anything for haulers yet. So the only thing that this really matters for is pirates. And this definitely does, and this isn't like a knock on pirates at all. I don't think we're going to see much of a difference in piracy simply because of this update. Because pirates will do what they need to do to get your cargo. And this is an update to cargo, not to disable. Like, the process of disabling a target, blowing open their hatch, boarding them, killing them, taking their shit and leaving is still going to be far more time consuming than simply just blowing up their ship and taking their shit. And as much as blowing their shit up and taking their shit, now you're going to it'll be easier to pirate. It's not going to change people. Now, people aren't going to suddenly become more pirates or suddenly piracy is going to increase. It's just going to make piracy easier, which is fucking about goddamn time. People who've been practicing piracy, like people like Cutlet and Mongrel Squad and all of the groups that have been piracy forever. They fucking have this down to a science. They've learned how to work with the systems they have now to function, and it's insane how good they are. But at the same time, I don't see this as a big change. The only change that would matter is if people actually stopped, surrendered, and gave up their cargo, but they won't do that because they just won't. There's just no means needs to do so. People are just going to self-destruct if they can or log out if they can. There are going to be other things that will prevent them from doing this. And there's no other additions that we know of that will be fixing it. If CIG does add new things, that's great. But like right now, it just doesn't seem that much of an import. But so my take is so far, this is an important update. It's needed to happen, and it will help down the line for things like haulers and such. We already see that they're working on some of this stuff for the beginning of next year. So likely 3.19 or 4.0, we might have some of those initial hauling missions, which will be cool as fuck. But we need to have this base implementation first. It's like PES. PES isn't going to change the game as we know it in the sense of like fundamentally change how you play. But I think it's going to begin the process of making the game play differently than we think of. The people who will turn over a portion of their cargo are the same people who currently negotiate with pirates, which is a small number, you know. They did show us stacking of boxes in Reclaimer, which I heard was part of Cargo Refactor Tier 0. Yes, so that's for sure. Hey, Demios, thanks for watching the Lore videos. This is going to sound weird, but like The lore videos aren't doing so well recently. Like I had a string where like every lore video was getting 5,000 views, and I was like, yes, it's finally taking off. People are noticing me. And then like September happened, and the lore videos dropped to like, I don't know, this is like, oh, you should such a complaint, but like 2,000 views. And it's like, that's what they were like in July when I didn't have a dedicated lore channel. So they're doing all right. But I'm glad whenever someone comes on and says, I love your lore videos. I'm like, thank you for watching, because you're like one of a handful of people who actually watch. Oh yeah, I've got plenty of Drake lore videos. I think I have a few, actually. I don't think I've done a dedicated Drake video, though. I did one, I did a system survey on Magnus, which is the home of Drake, but... the lore is on podcast. The Lore Citizen podcast is on the podcast format. Yeah, I think it's more of a, it's one of those ebbs and flows. I think the fact that the ebbs are dipping down to where they were in July, hopefully when it peaks, it'll be higher, and then every peak is going to go higher, and every valley is going to go still like remain a little bit higher. Lol, pirates are always foaming at the mouth. It's just, pirates aren't bad to have in the game. There's a couple of things that I don't think most pirates realize, though. Most piracy is not going to be done by on players. Take the idea that piracy is 100% PvP and throw it out the window, because it's not going to be the case, pirates. I'm sorry. The majority of your piracy is going to be done against NPCs. That's just the reality. When Star Citizen starts to grow, when we start to see more systems being put in place, just 2 systems alone with the server cap at, let's just say 100, right now it's at 100 people. Let's just say it's capped at 500 people, right? So you have 500 people per instance, per shard. 500 people stretched across Stanton and Pyro is a massive distance. You may see 1 or 2 players. Are you excited about finally getting the Corsair lore? There's fucking Corsair lore? Where in the fuck was that? When the fuck was that? Was it in the jump point? Jump town. Was it in the Tavarin? Oh, was it in the Crossroads thing? They talk about the Corsair? I'm looking through the thing right now. I don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see Corsair mentioned there at all. Yeah, Crossroads was great. You meant in the future? Okay. No. I am. I'd love to see more Corsair to know more about it, for sure. So, to touch on the cargo refactor, I think it's actually a good thing for traders, more so than pirates. If you randomly ganked, you can retrieve cargo instead of disappearing. True, but you also have to remember, like, you have to find out where you were, and there's other things like that. The one thing I will say is I don't think that we're going to get much of a change for demand and supply. I hope so. If I'm wrong, I will be very happy to be wrong, because CIG has not said anything about supply and demand being added into those areas. I think they have them there, the tick system, where like supply and demand is based off of ticks. And if those work, if the fucking system's hooked up to the new HUD, mwah, thank you, God. That's going to make it a lot easier to figure out how much you can buy and sell. It'll change a little bit about cargo refactor, but with the cargo refactor, but I don't think it's going to change enough. Yeah, ask the questions, because they are going to do an AMA with the new lead. They're going to do an AMA soon, so make sure you ask that question in the AMA. The like what is this going to mean? That kind of stuff. Thank you, Darsh. But like, how often does that actually happen? Crusader needs a new weapon called Judas. Take one look. Looks like one SE of cargo module, but it's actually a mine you can remote detonate. That'd be kind of cool. Handouts. We need handouts, people. But when the scale is highly unlikely, you'll run into a lot of people just anywhere. Yes. The point being that I was making about the about piracy is that piracy is majority going to be NPCs. You will be very rarely encountering another player as a pirate, and when that happens, it'll be a big deal, but that's just your bread and butter is going to be NPCs. That's how you're going to make your living. And players themselves will be harder to find. As the game expands, even as the player caps increase, the distances that you're dealing with, not just in like in terms of different systems, but the size of systems. Pyro is an average system. It's a below average system. Its distance isn't that big in comparison. I had to avoid lore lately. It gets me too hype while waiting for patches. Honestly, the refactor is good for haulers, as it's been getting way away with being poorly trained. Now they'll be forced to grow and adapt. That would be fine. Hey, Deepa, thank you so much for that $9.99. You absolute mad lad. Are you dropping? Oh, you're that good. How you doing? Yeah, without hype, the lore is meaningless. You must embrace the lore there, Space Goat. The problem is that hauling is not viable. You just don't make enough money off of hauling. And because you don't make a lot of money off of hauling, not a lot of people do it. So even if you want to be a hauler, you're going to have to do it for the love of the game. And that's hard to do with the amount of bugs that are in Star Citizen. Like, I do smuggling because I'm a smuggler. It's what I want to do. But I recognize that smuggling is incredibly, like, low ball paying. It needs to increase, but... And I 100% believe that CIG will not make hauling viable for 318. Not because CIG doesn't want to make hauling viable, but because the systems aren't in place yet, and they just need to kick this shit out the door. The baby has been born, throw it to work the factories, because it needs to get going. Like, they're going to be biting the wire when it comes to the release of 318, if it comes out this year at all. I'm the reason you can't sell ETAM on Neon anymore, am I? No, they just made the tick rate super low because I kept saying it was a good way of making money. My ideal smuggling ship? There's no good smuggling ship right now in terms of the final version of smuggling. The best smuggling ship in the game right now is the 315P. It's closely tied with the Cutlass Black. The best. And so CIG treats their code like Hurston treats their people. It's more that there's a lot of shit that's locked up behind PES and Cargo Refactor. Like, salvage, PES, and Cargo Refactor need to be released. because so much of the game, future game, is blocked up behind a lot of those things. PES most of all, but the other one's important as well. And once that's out, then server meshing. Like, they just need to get those foundations in so that they can move forward with more gameplay. Because once they get those foundations in, it's no longer a matter of having to wait until the foundational code is in for these things so you can tie all your resources to it. Now it's in, you can tie everything to it, and the change that it's going to make to improve it is those PES and server meshing isn't going to change that much. So you can actually start planning with those in mind. I feel like when the refactor comes out, the game's going to feel like a new game, you know? I don't think so. I think it's going to feel good, but I think it's going to feel like 3.17, but better. I do believe that when cargo hauling missions and crew hauling, people hauling missions and those sorts of things come out, which should be next year, could be, based off of where they are and where, like, monthly report, which we'll talk to. Yeah. Sure, Sharkbite. Good start. I like it. Looks good, Sharkbite. And engineering needs to be, otherwise its crew straight up won't get involved with the cargo. Yeah. I swear I'm not nuts. It's totally normal to have plan and backup plan for IAE calculated on spreadsheets with formulas. I know people who do. Transport missions actually sound like fun, provided AI will be able to properly respond. Looking forward to seeing hilarious NPC bugs. Yes. All right, let's move on to the next part of IAE or IAE. Let's try this SCL. No, ISC. English.
Continuing development, the cargo refactor isn't a one drop and it's done kind of feature. And the first implementation, much like persistent entity streaming alongside it in the upcoming Alpha 3.18, is about rebuilding existing functionality within an entirely new foundation that will now set the stage for the persistent universe to reach its fullest potential in subsequent patches to come. And while we're here talking about new technologies designed to be built upon for
Deepa, stop breaking my you've gifted so many people so many things. God damn it, Deepa.
one patch to the next, let's chat us up some
Thank you, Deepa.
Rastar, the internal tool that we've been developing now that's currently in use, placing outposts throughout both the Stanton and Pyro systems.
The whole purpose of Rastar is to make the thing easier for the devs to place location at the surface of a planet. And in the end, it will be used as the system for player to build their bases. We have Rastar because the previous system based on prefab was quite hard to use and not up to scale for the scale and the scope we want for our planet density. Any changes to the planetary generation, like for example, you just change a canyon, you add a canyon to the planet, you'll have to redrop every modules at the surface of a planet to be sure they are well aligned with the new terrain and the new modifications of the terrain. Rastar makes that better by allowing, first of all, the ability to directly follow the modification of terrain topology, so we don't have to refresh anything. Plus, it gives us more granularity and modularity of the locations. Backers should be caring about Rastar and all these improvements, because that's the way we will be able to give you, the players, the most dense area we can imagine to keep in line and have all the planets, all the moons filled with POI and things to do on the surface. and maybe later in orbit of these planets and moons. CitizenCon 2951. It changed not much in terms of visual, mostly UI rework, but features are all there. Just a lot of internal work to allow the new build location to fit more and be more productive. So now we can have modules and elements that are nested and indented so we better understand what depends on what. And we also added the ability to collapse parts of the tool, so to have a better understanding and more focused work on some parts of the tool. We also worked on better tools integration, so now we are able to use the base tools of the editor, such as gizmos or roller bar, to modify some elements of Rastar, which was not possible previously due to some breaking while doing so, and to keep consistency with the Rastar flow. But with that changes now, most of the in-edited tools are usable with Rastar without any risk. We also moved the object containers used for Rastar to streaming object containers to keep in line with the whole streaming process of the network system. So now we gave the ability for the server to load and spawn and despawn some locations and elements at will to avoid crowding the whole server memory.
That's cool as shit.
And we also now converted the whole connector system that was presented during the last CitizenCon to item ports. So now, again, to keep in line with the in-house way we do things and to better integrate some elements such as the resource network that will later be available on the locations. I'm quite happy with the result of Rastar.
Yeah.
There is quite some work to do on it, but the result is promising, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna love the location we will roll out with Rastar.
So what did we learn this week? Well, we
By the way, y'all, Rastar is done. Not finished, but version 1 is finished. They're done with it. They said, "Oh, we're not quite done yet," but like, thank you, Algrid. Thanks for the donation, Al. But yeah, it's done. They finished it last month.
We learned that the cargo refactor will physicalize the manner in which we transport goods in such a way that makes retrieval after disaster or collection after piracy easier and more rewarding than ever before.
They've taken
That it's the
Rastar
new
far, I
foundation
think.
for an entirely
Boo this
new
man.
trade
Boo
experience
this
that will
man.
continue to develop over subsequent patches. That it may yet have some fortunate side effects on vehicle destruction, ship husks, and salvage in the not too distant future. And that the Rastar tool, first introduced at last year's CitizenCon, is already being used to populate the planets of Pyro in next year's 4.0 and Stanton in this December's upcoming Alpha 318. Now, don't forget that this year's Intergalactic Aerospace Expo is right around the corner. You can go to the robertspaceindustrials.com website to find out all the details. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. We'll see you all here next week.
Maybe, chat. Maybe. We'll get... Do we get more than this? Or is this just the end? No cool endings. Damn it, Disco. But, yeah, I am stupid excited because maybe, the lore team, and I mean lore as in the league, my league, will be able to go hunting for relics and not just the cold fucking snowy wastes of Microtech. No hype. Rastar in fucking space. Yeah. Tree, we're just confused in how they apply to us players. The key thing that you're going to remember why it's important is that eventually players will be able to use the Rastar system to build stuff. So, hey, Walker, thanks for the $10. So, that's pretty cool. So, I think the big takeaway, at least personally, the big takeaway I have with with Cargo Refactor is that it's done. So, yeah. But that's one of the things I was worrying about. I was concerned that either A, it wasn't going to make it, or if it was going to make it, we're going to see a PES situation where it was just going to be 317. And I think it's a little bit better than that, but not by much. I think it's going to be a whole lot of refuel. It's the refuel hype where people are like, yeah, we got refueling in the game. And no one fucking uses it because it's fucking pointless in the current game. That's the same situation. It's just going to be not going to change much. But the fact that it's in game is cool. And the fact that Rastar is being used to make a bunch of outposts is great. Doesn't mean that players are going to play it. No, but it's very cool because it's going to make the planets much more livable, much more alive. A system like Stanton should have hundreds of small settlements throughout every planet because, resource gathering. We're going to spend an hour tractor beaming 100 boxes. No one's going to use this cargo refactor either here. They shouldn't have called it cargo refactor. It is a cargo refactor. It's just not the cargo update. It's a cargo refactor. It's the refactoring how cargo spawns and how it functions and how you can handle it. It's a refactor of cargo. It's technically correct. It's what they call it probably internally, but publicly it has some misleading qualifications because people thought it meant that we were going to actually get a refactor of cargo hauling the mechanic, not just a refactor of that. Question, do you suspect Tony Z was working on during CitizenCon for the cargo refactor? I suspect it has something to do with supply and demand. It's got to do something with quanta. It probably has to do something with quanta and specifically with supply and demand quanta for cargo. Hooking up quanta to the commodities we have in game now. But that's a huge effort. Yeah, it is a refactor, you're just not a developer. But I mean, the problem is that most people who play Star Citizen aren't developers. So there is some way of saying, hey, please speak to us like we're idiots, because most of us are. And it would help set expectations better. I would say that is something that CIG has been doing a lot better recently in the last 2 months or so. But in the past, most recently, the PES debacle, which a lot of people thought that PES meant that they would have like the death of the 30K, would remember where you were, you wouldn't have to worry about server crashes and 30Ks hurting you that much. And then they just said, no, hold up. It's not that, it's just 317, but new system with some update where things last a little bit longer. And a lot of people were like, well, fuck you. That was the only reason we were excited about PES was because it's a gameplay implications. I know plenty of people are excited about the immersion factor and feeling like it's lived in and telling stories. And I get that. But at the same time, that doesn't matter until more of the storytelling elements exist in game. Like none of that really matters to most people. But it should eventually when you have other aspects of things like reputation and things like death of a spaceman. Those things I think have a lot more of a immersive factor into the game than just seeing shell casings on the ground. But even then, those probably won't even persist. I wouldn't expect much beyond what we currently see in 317, including the aggressive culling that they do in 317. It's just not everything is going to be as aggressively culled. They upsized one SCU containers, which they could have done before, but wouldn't work without PES. So maybe it'll feel more like a refactor when they get the snap to grid. Yeah, things like that will feel a little bit better. That was what players confusing what PS unlocks for what PS is. Yes, but that's exactly the problem, is that CIG didn't tell us anything because people were thinking this is what it was because CIG hadn't told us, or the last time they told us this is what they implied, but it hadn't explicitly told us what it would do. Which is a problem because they knew that factor. They knew that fact back in September, and no one fucking told anybody else. Either no one told the community team to tell us, or no one came out to tell us those things, which is a mistake. Like, people will be less pissed if you tell them bad things when they're going to happen, rather than assuming that people know anything. Because let's just be honest, people don't know shit, and most people who are just following the game do not have the level of information that CIG insiders do, the devs have. And I think a lot of devs forget that, because so many people are so involved in the process and kind of keeping up to date on the stuff, they don't realize that a lot of the times we're just using secondhand information or best guesses. So but they've gotten better at it. They've been telling us about when 3.18 is getting tested, when the next test things are going to come in, like in terms of like the variations. They've been much better at talking to us. In fact, the fact that the USPU team head went on Halloween and introduced himself as, hey, I'm the new USPU team. We're going to be doing a Cargo Refactor episode here on Thursday. But I wanted to reach out and tell you that this is just the beginning. There's a lot more to go. Hope to see you soon. That was fantastic. That was a great introduction to kind of cushion the blow of people going, hey, I was expecting more, but it's like you could have known that if you followed the developers on Spectrum. They talked about it. I feel Star Citizen tells people exactly what things will do, but then say it in a general way, and players let their imaginations run wild. Yes, but as a game developer, you need to be more explicit. You can't be general. This is exactly what we're planning on doing. And if things fall off the wayside, then tell us when it falls off the wayside. We're big boys. We're big boys and girls. We can handle it. we're grown-ass humans. We can deal with it. United Workers Union Local 42nd. Ooh, 42nd. Long live the cat girl revolution. It's called setting expectations, yeah. Which, to be fair, I don't think many CIG developers have had experience with having to set expectations for a public like Star Citizen's game, like community, which is fair. But at the same time, talk to us. Because the thing that a lot of people don't realize about human psychology is people are going to get pissed off when bad news happens anyways. The same people who are going to scream at you about lies and scams and all that other bullshit will scream at you if you cut it off at the head of the pass versus if you do it 2 weeks later. It doesn't matter. They're still going to get pissed. But everybody else will appreciate the fact that you told us right away rather than waiting a month where it looks like you were trying to hide something because you were afraid people would get mad, so you wanted to cushion it besides like a big ship sale. People get pissed off about that too. And that actually sets bad precedent because then people say, oh, so every time we're going to get something new, we're going to get bad news coming out because CIG is hiding the bad news in the hype. Snap-to-grid will be convenient, but also maybe hazardous workplace safety hazard. I mean, to be fair, they also said that in the start of the update, it would look like, and it was explained on patch updated as well. What are you talking about, Dystrophic? They said that this is the start of the update, yes, and that what it looks like will be expanded on and patch updated as well. Yeah, that's for sure. But like, letting community make up their own shit is a problem. Or waiting for 4 days to correct the ship size to show they can't park the same footprint that they compared to. That's true. Or waiting several days to correct an obvious mistake on cargo things. Those things are not good. Once again, your wisdom is strong. It's just that being in this community for as long as I have, and seeing much more of a generalist point of view, kind of sit back and watch the whole big picture. The problem is more to do, I think, is more that each person at CIG is in their own bubble. They only work with other environment artists, lighting artists, gameplay designers, community, platform. They rarely work with other teams, so they may not actually see what the whole picture is going to be and just assume that it's community's job to talk to people, which is true. But this is also a crowdfunded game. You have to inform people, or at least inform community, the community team, what is to set expectations properly, because most of us don't know what the expectations are. And so we'll invent our own expectations if we don't set it properly. And CG, like I said, they're doing a much better job at it over the last couple of months since the debacle that it was the Spirit. Piracy's so hard. I've actually did Piracy when 3.0 first came out. God damn, that shit sucks. It's boring, it takes way too much time, and I mean, while it can be effective, it's just a pain in the ass. Lauren needs to check out those Quantanium boxes. So, my overall take from this whole thing, going back to the point at hand, is good things are happening. And as we read the monthly report, you will see that good things are happening quite fast. I'm still so new, I don't anything. I don't know anything. Well, the answer is none of us know anything. Some of us just have more experience in the sense of knowing enough to be stupid. And some of us know enough to know that we don't know anything. Floodgates. I don't use the word floodgates, but I will say there are plenty of this monthly report looks very much like several people in the Netherlands are going to be very, very wary in the near months because blockages are breaking. Let's just say that. But I know now that I know nothing. Yeah. Protect the tulips. Find a child to stick a thumb into a crack. Yes, we can do the monthly report time. With SRV and final art, how close do you think we're seeing to functioning ship tractors? Next year. I think earliest 4.0, more than likely 4.1 though. But it depends on when 4.0 comes out. I still think it's going to come out at the end of next year, but... So sad there hasn't been an update on the Spirit yet. I don't think Spirit's going to be coming out anytime soon. SRV, I think, is a 3.19 thing. We'll see. It's sooner than you think. It's not just supposedly in development, it's done, Deliner. Like, it's done. The SRV, she'd be done. She's in final art. Which means anywhere from, like, a couple of months to, like, a couple of weeks. Depends on the size of the ship. And it's not that big, so I would imagine probably by January, February of next year, it'll be done. At least in the States where it's actually adding its gameplay to it. Oh, the Spirit? Oh, yeah, no, Spirit's not done. Yeah, that was from a leak, though. I never... Always take Pipeline's rumors with a big mountain of salt, because they're pulling rumors from people who may or may not have talked to someone and did not have the context for it. I'm sure the Spirit's in development, not in the kind of development people think, because the Banu Merchantman's been in development for 3 years. That doesn't mean shit. The development could mean one person is sketching on a sketch pad somewhere, and their job is to kind of go through and, you know, work on it while they're working on other things as well. Doesn't mean a lot. So, but anytime Pipeline pulls something directly from the files, that's a lot more realistic because they're pulling something from actual data files. Whereas anything that they hear outside of that is still iffy. Yes, Spirit development equals concept art team. Exactly. Do you think the Cramler will get a price jump at IAE? No, I don't think so. But I'm sure it'll get a price jump at some point. Jake dropped by the Wiki Discord to say it was him saying that at a bar citizen. Oh, okay. I think the scale of the Spirit makes for a quick release, but we shall see. I think what matters most with it is not necessarily its scale, but its gameplay features, because the E1 is very much a passenger transport. And I don't think CIG wants to release the E1 until they have passenger transport in. And they'd also have to build out the bombs and stuff like that. Hey, Captain Shack. Cargo Refactor is eager to break my rule of being a law-abiding citizen. We'll see. What CIG said about not releasing ships without gameplay, you're right. Yeah. So, I wouldn't be surprised if the Spirit is released next year, maybe next IAE. But I doubt it's going to be coming out anytime before that. Remember when Passenger Transport was one patch away, they swept it under the rug, never to heard of again? I talked with Jake and a few other people about it, and they seemed to be they were fairly certain they could get a very basic version of it in, it was just a station to station. But the reason why they dropped it was because they felt like they could go through and refactor it so that they could have not just station to station, but a full breadth, more of a tier 0 than a tier -1. Tier 0 or tier 1 factor. And it wouldn't take them as long. But then that team got moved into doing things like the more important resource work. Like the resource system and engineering and environment systems, those became much more important for gameplay than just a quick and dirty transport method. Plus, the AI is getting completely reworked. The AI that's currently in game now is going to be yoinked out, and they're going to be adding new AI probably around 4.0. The AI they've been showing us at CitizenCon and they've been talking about in the monthly reports. Corsair is coming in 2 weeks and 1 hour and 20 minutes. Sooner than that, because the Corsair is going to definitely be in the PTU. And Wikipedia yesterday or today said that they were going to be pushing the PTU, pushing the 3.317.4 to PTU in this week, probably by Friday. Gary showed ISC. Won't opening Pyro just push for cargo to pick up? Yes, but you also need to have Quanta working the background for it. I don't think AI is coming with 4.0, but probably later, to be honest. Depends on when 4.0 drops. I personally think 4.0 is not going to drop until the end of next year, and if that's the case, then yeah, I'd expect at least some of that AI to be added to Star Citizen by 4.0. Sorry, I haven't been in the know about ship stuff lately. That's cool. What is 317 Node 4? What is that? What's in that? Just the Corsair, the ships that are coming out at IAE, and the IAE itself. That's it. Nothing else. No fixes, maybe some minor fixes, but nothing major. It's just they couldn't get 318 to release by IAE, so. Is writing a nuke. The AI I have right now is writing a nuke yeeted off a cliff into an active volcano. Yeah. Why is Spectrum melting down over a feature that has been planned for years? What are you talking about, Bucky? First of all, your first problem is it's Spectrum. Spectrum sucks. And the people who... the reason why it sucks is because you can't moderate the crazies. Period. And the crazies will always take over because CIG doesn't have a downvote button. Add a fucking downvote button and let us call these crazy, shitty threads so we can drop them to the bottom where they belong, and then no one will think that Spectrum is full of crazies. You need to let us fundamentally filter this problem. Let the players in the community filter out the crazies, because we will do it. Not as much as if you look at Spectrum, it's not always a good idea, but you also have your own moderation team, which can call it even further. That's not a diss, by the way. Just saying hi. I mean, Celine is probably the most popular VTuber for Star Citizen. What is Spectrum? It's the official forums of Star Citizen. They decided to do this weird hybrid Reddit forum system, which just doesn't work very well because there is no downvote button, only upvotes. So as long as you get the most upvotes, you will always be at the top. It doesn't matter how many people don't like you. You must never go there, Simba. Yeah. It's the problem is everyone has their own idea of what Star Citizen is going to be. This is not unique. This is something that happens with every single game in development. People have an idea of what it's going to be and what it should be. But there is also a vast majority of people who don't give a shit. And those people will be more prevalent, will help regulate that community a little bit better if they have the ability to. And of course, there is a way of regulating it, which is incredibly toxic, which is what happens on Spectrum. And that ends up with just flame wars, and then eventually the Knight Rider gets to become the bad guy and have to knock everyone's stuff down. Hold on, let me fix this real quick, because my mic just died. That's better. There we go. It's what they're paid for. It is, but I mean, like, they're paid to be the bad guy, and they aren't, because, like, Knight Rider is a good... I know Knight Rider personally. I've known him for years. Great dude. Fantastic dude. Big old softy. He's a great person to talk to. But he's got this reputation as being this horrible, like, dictator. He's not. He's just doing his job. Knight Rider, CIG. Nightcop's not wrong. You're not wrong. Community-sponsored discords by content creators are infinitely more friendly places usually. Well, it's because they usually are actively moderated and controlled by the people. Like, if someone is, I rarely ban people, but I've banned a couple people in my Discord for just being toxic pieces of shit. And just be like, no, you're not here on goodwill. Goodbye. And they don't come back. CIG will not ban people like harsh for those sorts of penalties, but they wouldn't have to if they let players police themselves a little bit. And by that, I mean downvotes. They're not as toxic as people being jackasses. You don't have to get involved with your moderators. You can just let people go, this is fucking dumb, and downvote it. And then it will go off into the bottom of the pile like all the other garbage, and those people will eventually realize that nobody cares. Knight Rider was his name. Knight Rider CIG. Knight Rider was his name before he became a CIG employee. I learned my lesson with Frontier Elite forums. Oof, those are bad. And I'm not talking about... I'm talking about the real guy behind Knight Rider. I'm talking about the moderator we see on Spectrum. What did you say, Harrison Ford? I don't see what you said. Yeah, I'm not seeing what you said. Oh, well, maybe Knight Rider is mostly about not got it, but neither good in my humble opinion. His job is to do what he's doing. I'll just say that. I think it's like Knight Rider, like the car. Why won't they do this? Because it would require a complete refactor of the code for Spectrum, which, you know, they don't have time or energy to do. But if I do think that downvoting would 100% improve the experience of people on Spectrum. I don't think it matters if you see the downvote. If the downvote, even if you hide the downvote system and you just see the upvotes, if the downvotes outnumbered the upvotes, it would sort it to the bottom. You would not nearly see as much toxicity because those things would filter to the bottom very quickly and only the upvoted ones will go up. Like, it filters itself out. I've seen it abused in other MMO forums as well. We need existing moderators to do their job. Players who call them dictators unfair, but they're usually the petty bitches have nothing of it to contribute but their stupidity. You still have moderators. So you have a moderator team. CIG is a moderator team like Knight Rider who can do their job, but having the downvote will make it so much more infinitely better experience. The Picard Palm serves as a downvote, but that doesn't decrease the visibility of the post, unfortunately. Yeah. Imagine the AstroPub Spectrum drama encrusted in game. How many 3.8x patches do you think you'll get a year? I think we'll only get one. I think 3.19 will be pretty quick out the gate. Which is why Discord fought the dislike button. Or Facebook fought the dislike button. Oh, it would, but having both working better would improve the overall experience. Yes. There's enlightened people on the Spectrum who believe everyone should now know everything about the game and would not let newcomer discussions be in place with the downvote button. That's true. That could happen, but I do think that the reality is that most people who are posting, like a vast majority of people would return to Spectrum with that auto moderation figure, like with that filter. Because Reddit, let's look here. Let's just go quickly to the Star Citizen Reddit. All right, let me log out of this account and log into my AstroPub account. Oop, here's Paul. Go. Here we go. This is our Star Citizen. So top one is, why should I trade cargo? A meme. Okay. Then we've got a launch. Pretty cool. Good content. Then ISC. Some fluff about desync, PSA PvP event, Rework SPK. Look at that. Look at that. Evocati notes, the 400i, talking about the game. See, brand new person. I've never bought a game. I want to know more about the game. Has 89 upvotes. Long live the Caterpillar. Loreville 2.0. Perfect Q load. Look at this. Fan concepts of the Drake. Boom, boom, boom. These are all content, which is cool that people enjoy. That, like, for people showing off of the game. And of course, fucking gotta love Zark Media, baby.
You're watching Hardware Galactic. I'm Oliver Zark. These are
I'm just gonna watch it real quick.
tonight's headlines. Tech giant Metropolis New Babbage is quickly getting known for its prominent racing culture, and we send our reporter to catch the latest races. In a unique, anchor-made story, we're finding out how you, the ordinary Imperial Joe, can make sure you get the treatment you deserve. And lastly, do you have lots of money and time but no way to spend it? Look no further than to one of the richest and most wasteful stunt collectives in the galaxy. Good evening, viewers. We begin tonight's report by visiting the racing scene in New Babbage.
Y'all need to watch Hubwire. It's fucking amazing. Mwah, it's great. And it's like probably what, like, yeah, 700 views. Fucking, this is a tragedy. Watch this show. Watch this show. Get your nut vote. But my point being, shit like this ends up on Reddit. I don't like Reddit's culture at times, and I think Star Citizen's Reddit culture can be toxic at times, but it's far more enjoyable and watchable for the majority of the time. Only one fucking post is about the pirate stuff. And if we do here, let me pull up the Star Citizen thing. If I did sort by new, I can guarantee you there's a bunch of stuff talking about piracy. Cargo refactor griefing ideas. Raylan worries. Nah. And even then, you see like this. This has got 0, but there's 11 comments. Let me increase this a little bit so you can see a little bit better. New player asking questions. Yeah, it's got 0 upvotes, but there's 11 comments with people talking about him. IE ships lows out, 20 comments, 20 comments. So yeah, they're getting downvoted, but they're getting answered. People talking to them. And then you've got this. Anyone knows downgrading cargo refactor? They delayed it a full year and appears now cargo spawns after destruction, cargo elevators, like all of this stuff. Nope. 0. This is like more of a discussion about why should I be a cargo caller versus a pirate. First iteration. Look at this. Look at this. So you're seeing lots of discussion, but 0 upvotes. It's almost like the community filtered out the bullshit. Like it's supposed to do with downvotes. It's not a perfect solution. But what's the current solution of doing nothing is fucking failing. So can you submit a commercial for lore and quantum stellar to SCL? I will, but if I'm doing a quantum stellar thing, I'm paying for a fucking animator. That shit is getting animated. It's becoming I'm doing like a 10 second, like a 30-second commercial, fully animated, voice acting, the works. That shit's gonna cost me $5,000 to $10,000 to do, and I'm not doing that anytime soon. The committee feels like bullshit. Why do they let me stick around? Yeah, I guess I'm used to downvotes being negative and threads being locked, Stack Overflow style. I thought the Star Citizen Reddit wasn't as toxic as Elite Dangerous. It isn't. It's still bad at times. There's the cycle that can flow through the Reddit, which is when anything's getting like when we're moving away, like we're getting close to IAE, so like a lot of the toxicity is kind of settled down. But we'll hit IAE, it'll start like after IAE, people get anxious about 318. 318 will come out. 318 will be out for, until like February. And then in February, people are going to lose their fucking mind again. And people are like, when's 319? Where's 4.0? I want my server meshing. You need to fix X, Y, or Z. Why haven't you done this? Where's the hex codes? Blah, blah, blah. People will bring up all the old shit that's been bubbling at the surface. And then 319 will come out and everyone will calm the fuck down again. It always happens like that. And Reddit is not immune to it. But Reddit is far better at handling that than Spectrum is. So let's get recruits. How about that, Lord, baby? Let's make the best museum. I need to figure a good commercial for that. I'll have to talk to people about it. I'm going to talk to Zark because Oliver Zark actually approached and said, "Hey, can we do an interview with a member of the lore organization to talk about them?" So we've got to do that one too. I need to set up good chain of command, stuff like that. A negative attention economy is more difficult to moderate. Yes. He's the hero we need. When I was a newcomer, I tried to make a theory craft about swords in the game. A lot of Facepalm Picard did pop up. People told me to get out with my Star Wars shit. Other ones gave me inside ideas. So if there was no downvote, my discussion would never get nice responses. I don't think so. I think you'd still get nice responses. I just don't think your comment, your thing would stay at the top. You would have gotten the same reaction no matter what. I think, Harrison. I think that's the answer. Is that you would have gotten the same reaction no matter what. And to be fair, I think if a lot of people were downvoting those assholes who were like, if their comments had downvotes where like their comments would filter to the bottom and the nice comments would filter to the top, you probably would have had more nicer comments. The problem is that it's based off of whoever posts first. And if people who are earliest are usually the most negative, in my experience, because they're just assholes and they're looking for a reason to be mad. So that filters out over time and you start to see more people. My experience with Star Citizen community, most people would probably be positive about that. And you would see that filtered out in through the comments. But you don't see that. But if your post is hid by downvotes, it's not hidden. It's just filtered to the bottom. Like I showed you, those links, those ones where new players were asking questions, still had 11 comments, but they were not on the front page. Well, I mean, you don't have faith in humanity to properly self-moderate. No one's going to be able to self-moderate. But again, you have two options. Do nothing and keep the toxicity that exists in Spectrum, or try a downvote system and see if it improves it at all. Because what currently is happening isn't fucking working. So I don't think the argument is, let's keep this as shitty as possible and not try something new to improve it. Because anyway, I trust your insights about Star Citizen. I get your hesitancy, but I think that, like I said, I think that would have happened no matter where you were. You prefer a Knight Raider dictatorship? That's what you currently have. Like, the other option is to remove the voting system entirely and go back to an old forum style, which would, again, probably be the same problems, because you still have the same issues. In comparison, my same question in-game chat was answered in minutes. I think that they really need a better in-game meshing with Spectrum. They do. Spectrum is supposed to be linked internally to Star Citizen, though. Eventually. Perhaps a sortable view where you can either sort by number of votes or most recent. That way you can potentially get people to slip between the cracks and get downvote bombed. Yeah, easily. I mean, those are, like I said, just if you add some more of the Reddit features, it'll help filter it out. Yes, it would. What did Sling say? I mean, Star Wars stuff. Would the Marg Sable be a potential tactic in the future as ships with larger hangars come online? The game is the best space flight I feel I've ever seen with those tactics would work. Just need pilots to have the ability to match. I don't know what that is. Man, you convinced me to love Knight Rider. Thank God he's the mod. He's in a rock and a hard place. And I honestly don't think the answer of handing over to Knight Rider and having him be dictator for life is a good idea. Because A, there's only one Knight Rider, and his moderation, he's not the only one. There are other moderators. But there's only a handful of moderators, and we don't want to have them filter literally everyone's thought through their own stuff. And I don't think they want that to happen either. The answer is, give us a fucking downvote button. I think that's the simplest answer to what they could fix that problem they have right now. Marg Sable is a ship that carries fighters, turns the hangar away from aggressors, and launches the fighters. The fighters loop around the random vectors to catch attackers in the crossfire. Oh, nice. Did it catch your question? No, I didn't. I've been ranting, so I didn't catch a lot of questions. I heard from leaks that zero-G push-pull might be tested soon. Do you think we can make it in 3.18? No. I hope so. We would have to play Satapol with a 3.18 SU box. No, I don't think we're going to see push-pull in 3.18. I do think we'll see it in 3.19 or 4.0. But, yeah. Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about ladders because we actually have the monthly report, which we'll pull up right here. All right, so this is, I always do the monthly report. Sure, possible. I always do the monthly report as a segment for YouTube. So I'm not going to talk to the chat. I'm not going to look at chat. Keep your questions in chat until later because I'll try to go back and push. But you know, okay. I'll ask push pull. So did you watch Rolando? I don't know how to say your name. You're regular now, but I always call you Roland because there's a couple Rolands in the game, so in the community, so I always forget. But did you see CitizenCon? If you watch CitizenCon, did you see the last section where it's 2 hours of Chris Roberts and I'm blanking on his name, the other guy? Because if you did, that is push pull, where they showed like the 0G maneuver mechanics. Richard Tyre, thank you. Basically, it lets you maneuver along surfaces. Your character will automatically grab onto surfaces and push you down or pull you. And if you kind of hit shift, your character will push off and go, in the direction you're going, and then continue to push off. And then if you want to stop, you'll be able to grab onto the surfaces and slow yourself down and stop. Rolandel. What happened to the egg cooking tech? That was an April Fool's joke. Loyal. It was literally on April 1st where they had they did a 24-hour live stream of them just doing food, procedural food generation. It's really cool. Yeah. It basically means that because in the future your suits will have EVA like fuel. So as you're moving around the verse, your suits will run out of fuel, so you'll be stuck unless you have a tractor beam, which is what that tractor beam originally was for, not moving cargo, but moving yourself, to be able to grab on like a grapple to kind of move yourself around, or you were close enough that you could use like the momentum and carry yourself along the edges of ships and such. I kind of do want Chef Citizen, though. I do, too. Whatever the grip in your suit gloves are, shit is amazing. I do think that they haven't added momentum. They even said that. But I do think that it's that a lot of that is going to be the higher your momentum is, the less your grip is going to be. And they also will have things like handholds and stuff like that you can use. Damn, I thought that was cool. I hope that they'll add it in the game. Actual cooking in the game would be cool as shit, but I don't think that's a long-term thing. All right. It looks good. So, like I said, I'm not going to pay attention to the chat. I'm not paying attention to chat. I'm just going to be recording real quick. 3, 2, 1. Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right. Capsule. This is a small segment of my Office Hours live stream, live on Thursdays at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come join us live, where it's an AMA. We kind of hang out, talk about lore, talk about news. People can ask questions. I'll do my best to answer them. It's a grand old community stream talking about Star Citizen, and sometimes I'll bust out my Warhammer figurines that I paint up and show off updates, stuff like that. So, and Star Citizenship paints and that kind of stuff. So come join us live is what I'm trying to say. But we've been doing this on a monthly basis for almost a year now, where I record myself reading the Persistent Universe monthly report for whatever the previous month was, to give you guys and gals a idea of what is happening in development. Now, this is not a summary. This is a full read through of exactly what they said. There's nothing wrong with summaries. I understand people don't have a lot of time and they need something, so they rely on someone to kind of summarize what's the important parts from a report. The problem is with relying on that as your main method for information is frankly, and I don't want to take this the wrong way, but you're relying on the bias of the person reading you what is important, what isn't. And so you'll often miss aspects of the game which are being developed or being discussed that you might get, well, they've never said this, or where did this come from, or where did this go? And they may mention it in the PU monthly reports, in the progress trackers. There's lots of ways you can find information about this. So I've been doing this as kind of thing for just reading it online, and some people asked me to put it up as a separate video after the fact, so that's what I've been doing. So I'm doing a full read through. I will still give my commentary, some context of what we've seen before. If you've missed previous monthly report videos, I'll say, hey, yeah, this is brought up before. They talked about this in the past. For instance, a good example of this is that we've known here at the pub about the new AI system for months, probably since July. The full breadth and depth of the AI system and how AI were going to work well before they showed it off at CitizenCon. And so when I saw it, I was like, oh, now it's nice to see what they've been talking about. So that's kind of an example. But still, this is very long, as you can see below you. Not a summary. Check it out. Hopefully you enjoy this. And always, let me know if this helps you or not. And if it does help you, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and join us live. With that being said, let's jump into the October monthly report. The October PU monthly report. Man, has time flies. All right, first thing, AI content. Throughout October, the AI content team progressed with the vendor and patron behaviors, realizing the full flow of NPCs ordering, carrying, and consuming food and drink. This gives them a sense of life and purpose, as they're always busy doing something. Progress continued on the utility behavior, with AI characters opening crates, taking items out and putting them in. This was a surprisingly complex task, but various elements are now working well together. Other tasks involved polishing the quartermaster behavior, making animation pose updates, setting up wild lines, overhauling documentation, and prototyping food eating. So we're going to start to see player AI ordering food, getting food, sitting down and eating it. So, all right. And then also some wild lines and some stuff on a lot of this stuff is going to be Squadron first. It's important to remember that a lot of these AI features are being developed for Squadron first and then Star Citizen, but because they're being developed on the engine side, you're going to see them through both. Last month, the AI animators continued to refine the Vanduul execution animations to ensure they're perceived as strong and impactful from the first-person perspective, are better suited to be played on the spot if the attack occurs in cramped space, are more believable to be deflected by the player, and allow players to escape or attack once deflected. I really want to see these Vanduul execution animations. They sound so freaking cool. They sound like insta-deaths from like Dark Souls games. This is not the first time they've mentioned it. They've been working on Vanduul attacks this entire year, and it sounds terrifying. The just sheer power and weight that the Vanduul will come to you, the fact that they will try to close the distance to kill you with their melee weapons is it's brilliant. I love it. All right. On the perception system side, the AI team implemented functionality to allow them to rate and respond to disruptions, which are unexpected scenarios that can be resolved. For example, the lights in a room turning off or an engine being disabled. Players can use this mechanic to disrupt NPC behaviors when they haven't been detected, giving them an opportunity to better infiltrate the level by avoiding patrols and sentries. Very nice. So you can distract, player can also use distractions, action that triggers audio stimuli, such as throwing an object, to cause NPCs to leave their positions to investigate. CIG, I need you to stop making Dark Souls mixed with Hitman, mixed with Assassin's Creed or Uncharted. right? Stop trying to make the game that everybody wants, because this is just dangerous. This is dangerous, CIG. We had to ensure these events are propagated out of all of the agents within the appropriate area, that they are handled by the perception system, rated against the current threat level, and that the correct behaviors are implemented to resolve the disruptions. The resolution may involve agents going to investigate the source of disruption, or alternatively, if too many disruptions have occurred, to increase their alertness level. This means that they may take out their weapons, say specific alertness wildlines, hey, who turned out the lights? Or respond quicker to subsequent events. If that's not a wildline Easter egg, I swear to God. We also had to take into consideration the immediate source of disruption may not be what the NPCs wants to investigate. For example, the agent may perceive that a light goes out, but this would turn to investigate the light switch that controls the light, and ultimately, if they encounter the player, to turn the light back on again. If they don't encounter the player, to turn the light back on again. October saw the AI implement rocket launcher and railgun handling. They've been talking about this for a while. For rocket launchers, NPCs have to consider if the shot will cause explosive splash damage to friendly targets. This check can be disabled using friendly fire trait to enable more reckless enemies. For the railgun, they changed how the behavior works in cover. Now NPCs will start charging the weapon while in cover before emerging to fire. For both of these weapons, the team disabled the standard check to see if weapons can hit the target, so enemies will continue to fire at the target even when in cover. This allows the player to see that the weapons are being fired nearby and responding accordingly, rather than being immediately hit upon leaving cover. As part of this work, they also reviewed the existing shouldered weapon animations. For those of you who don't know, they can also target freaking ships now. Ships and vehicles can be targeted by AI with those rocket launchers and railguns, and ships and vehicles can now target infantry. It's so painful to see them working on this AI stuff and know that it's not going to be in the game for a year. Like, seeing this stuff being like, this is cool as hell, but we're not going to see it for a while. Years, maybe years, but God, I'd like to see this sooner, CIG, that's all I'm saying. Continuing with weapon usage, AI features implemented how NPCs pick up weapons and ammunition during combat. Enemies are under the same ammunition constraints as players, requiring them to conserve it and use other weapons when they run out. NPCs will evaluate the best course of action in the situation, including switching to their secondary weapon, picking up ammunition, or finding a new weapon altogether. When looking for animation, they will take it from boxes, out of loose weapons, or from stowed weapons on dead, incapacitated characters. When looking for weapons, God damn! I'm sorry. If they manage to do half of this, because this sounds like they've done it, like they're finished, they're testing it right now. They manage to do half of this in the game. AI are not just going to be scary, they're going to be like next level. I've never heard of a game that does stuff like this, where AI have a limited amount of ammunition and will have to scrounge ammo from dead comrades. That sounds insane. When looking for weapons, they could get them from racks, find them around the area, or take them from other characters. To implement this, weapons are being set up as usables, which allows the AI to search for the best usable that can provide ammo or a weapon. The team had to modify the usable system slightly, including adding support for usables that supply themselves, loose weapons or ammo, and ensuring that usable alignment positions are correctly aligned with gravity when weapon or ammo falls. For non-combat AI, the team worked on functionality to support NPCs moving cargo from one location to another, including picking up crates, stacking them on a trolley, moving the trolley to a destination such as a cargo hold, and then taking them to the trolley and restacking them. An existing prototype was also added with new tech to provide behaviors that can be used in varying locations to bring them all to life. They also refined tools to generate better quality cover. This includes making cover generation more robust to edge cases and supporting recognition of cover over certain distances from identified cover edges. This allows cover to be generated in a greater range of areas. Finally, AI features took the first steps towards implementing Buddy AI. It will support gameplay where a player is accompanied by one or more characters. To begin with, they made a rapid prototype featuring some of the functionality that might be required to generate conversations about what the final form of this would be and how it would fit into gameplay. This is just AI. That was just AI animation. No features. That's AI features. This is just 2. AI has been getting incredibly long as these have been going along, but this means they're improving the systems and dialing in the combat systems, including a kind of a scavenge survival scenario where AI will look for weapons. They've also increased moving cargo from one location to another, which is obviously in support of future cargo refactor, post-cargo refactor work, including like unloading, having AI unload cargo and load cargo to an area. And on top of this, they're implementing AI that will follow players around. So you're actually the first implementations of what seems to be AI character like crew members. This is obviously not designed for crew members. This is obviously designed for you're on a mission, you're supposed to escort this person, or you're working with this one mercenary or this one security agent. And they're like, hey, you're my backup. Come on, follow me. Let's go. That kind of thing. But this is definitely along those lines. So AI NPC companions. So this is nuts. Like this, a lot of this stuff, and a lot of people, you know, I see chat already kind of this, and I can already see the comments down below being like, this is years away. This isn't years away. This is finished. Like a lot of this stuff is just done. They're at the point where they're waiting for the rest of the game to catch up so they can implement this AI in the game. And we also know that a lot of this stuff is done because they showed us a lot of this stuff off at CitizenCon. This was stuff that the stuff they showed off at CitizenCon was stuff that we have known about because we've been following the monthly reports since like July. So this is kind of nuts. AI tech. Last month, the AI tech team made several usability improvements to the Apollo subsumption tool. Not the Apollo tool, not the Apollo, the subsumption tool. This included updating the multigraph with feature folders and functions to allow organization from the outline view. For example, the designers are now able to delete and move graphs to different folders directly from the outline view panel. They can also drag node connections to an empty section of the graph to open up a drop-down menu that allows them to create a new task. I don't know what that means, but yeah. Minor usability improvements were made too, including allowing the entries into the outline view to collapse and addition of a new filter field to a variable tree view. They also extended the graph view into new custom view style. This is currently used to allow the Apollo to visualize, and edit the master graph files that were previously managed by hand. For perception, the team worked on supporting audio noise level and audio masking. Audio noise level ensures that audio stimuli that don't surpass the basic background noise won't be heard by listeners. New tools were implemented to allow designers to configure audio noise level in an area and type of sounds that should be considered normal in that area. Audio masking makes sure particular audio stimuli are not perceived as anomalous. For example, explosions in a field where fireworks are tested. This allows for players to use the environment as audio cover when performing actions. For example, firing weapons near a shooting range is to not alert NPCs. I'll talk about it in a moment. The team implemented light extensions to action areas. This enabled the designers to link light groups to an area and automatically calculate whether the state of the environment should be light or dark. This impacts the time NPCs require to perceive a target, making it easier to stay hidden in darker areas. AI tech also extended the system that allows for visibility of large objects such as vehicles. Large vehicles can be seen at further distances, but we need to avoid approaches that cost too much on CPU, such as doing raycast for very long distances. To prevent this, we can now describe the visibility of a large object depending on the degree of visual angle. Basically, at which distance is specific size from the observer's perspective, AI tech team. This also allows the team to defer the discovery phase of which objects are within range of large objects. This utilizes one query, which then allows each individual to correctly verify the occlusion of the object. The parameters of visual field of view were also extended to be overridable based off the AI state. For example, allow pilots to see at greater distances and visually target on-foot characters. That's something they talked about last month as well. The team continued extending navigation links to support two main functionalities. Firstly, they enabled usable routing to function with entity links to allow door panels that are linked to a door to be correctly used by NPCs. This allowed them to understand which panel they should use to trigger the right interaction. Secondly, they expose a way to define the cost of nav links based off specific conditions, such as increasing the cost for vaulting when a character isn't alerted or walking. Those costs now allow the system to describe how preferable actions are from NPC's perspective. For example, a character wouldn't vault, which is a physically demanding action, if not needed. Work began properly allow NPCs to drive ground vehicles. The team are currently verifying the setup of a selection of vehicles to use as reference. They also set up code to switch to the right nav mesh when driving a vehicle and select the right path follower. That was something they started working on last month. It looks like they're continuing to work on that now. Finally, for AI tech, the team worked on locomotion refactor, which involved integrating current work into different streams to begin stabilizing bugs. They also experimented with foot locking during MoveNet and are currently verifying how to use this functionality on various aspects of locomotion, such as during sharp turns. They also implemented a first frame adjustment that allows seamless transition code to improve the entering of usables. This will allow to place specific animation for a specific location with a specific pose. They've been doing that for a while, where they want to make sure that the movement into an animation and out of an animation is super smooth. They've been talking about that for a while. That's something that they've been really trying to dial in for players and NPCs. But this is a lot, and I know there's going to be people who are making, having a good fun, having some good trolling in chat and in the discussions. But the important thing to remember about this is that this is stuff that's being worked on right now and is likely focused on Squadron. Not necessarily Star Citizen, but Squadron. And based off of Chris's own statement, and I'd love to hear more specifics about this, because this is one of those things that they need to be very clear about. None of this is going to be available until server meshing is in game. So if not at 4.0, then shortly after 4.0. Because they need server meshing in order for these to function better, effectively. So the reason why they're developing this separately is because they still need it for Squadron, but it's also needed for Star Citizen, and they won't necessarily be able to put it in Star Citizen until the backend services can even handle these sorts of things. You can even see when they discuss this in the features about CPU load. They don't want to overload the CPU. They want to kind of find other solutions to the problems, because right now this AI wouldn't work in what Star Citizen is right now. So, but that's some nuts stuff. Like that just alone, the AI stuff is a huge update. And I know, because I've skimmed through this, there's better things on this list too. Animation. Last month, the animation team began discussing bringing creatures into the PU. Our team has just signed off on the rig for the first creature, meaning we can finally start animating our first interactable creature. Animation team. I am looking forward to it. And I really hope it's a dangerous creature, because based off the last thing they talked about, the behavior they were using was the Van Duel as the base set for the animation, or for the behavior, which is, I'm hoping Boreal Stalker, because CIG seems to love their microtech. Though I can also dream of a rock, of whip crabs, but it's most likely going to be like the Ranta or the rock bug or whatever it's called, the stone bug. All right. Facial team progressed with AI worker animations, including the bartender. They also worked on various performances for IAE and gameplay for delivering a person from one location to another. So we've got animation talking about people transport and animals. So we got AI going off the fucking chains. We got animation bringing animals and people cargo. Now art characters. Last month, the character art team delivered armor variants for Security Post Korea. Production started on Frontier workwear outfits and undersuits following work done by character concept art team too. Very cool. Art ships. The ship team progressed with the Argo SRV, moving the exterior through the final art phase. Simple, short. This is a Defender made out of bananas and looks like other things. It's definitely supposed to be a Defender. Community. Early in October, the community team supported Day of the Vara. I know this is for the JRDF competition, where you're supposed to make a ship based off of household items. So. Early in October, the community team supported Day of the Vara, the Verse's take on Halloween. Citizens hunted down in-game masks, picked up ghoulish green paints for Drake ships, and entered pumpkin carving and trick-or-treat video contests. The team then worked on Digital CitizenCon 2022. Alongside the developer panels, they unveiled the new community hub and supported the ship team with their Pick a Ship challenge. Each individual panel and the full show are available to rewatch now. Following the show, Atmo Esports hosted Babbage Bash, which I was part of, by the way, a community-led event where players took on developers in an STV race across Microtech. Steve! Following its reveal during CitizenCon, the team released Crusader Spirit Q&A, with devs answering the community's questions on the new concept ship. The community team also continued their Bar Citizen World Tour with visits to Chicago, New Jersey, Paris, and Madrid. As always, the team wants to know that your hospitality and warm welcome are greatly appreciated. We love getting to make new friends and celebrate Star Citizen with you all. With all of y'all. All of you. Just y'all. I know who's writing this. Y'all. Just say y'all. We'll be visiting more Bar Citizen events in coming months, so stay tuned, community team. There we go. That's pretty cool. Let's see if we see any CIG devs, if I can notice any of them here. I don't see any, no. Do not recognize. They're probably there. I'm just not seeing them properly. All right. The next part is the engine. And I always say this because I always want to emphasize this. I have no idea what they're saying in the engine section. I don't know any of this. I am not an engineer. I do not know. I am not an engine seer or a tech priest. I do not know the canticles of the machine spirit. I am not a Starfleet engineer. I cannot turn rocks into replicators. I am not a floating gelatinous creature that was created by the Forerunners to be able to disassemble and reassemble anything. I am simply a dumb person who is reading things to you. So I will read this to the best possible ability I can. But if you know what the hell they're saying, please comment in the comments below to translate this gobbledygook for the rest of us to understand what it actually means. Okay? Thank you. In October, the physics team worked on various improvements, including brush physicalization, which was to put into queues of 32 entries, each and forced to be processed in parallel. Spawn batch finalization was reworked to wait for all brush archetypes and their main material clones to be fully physicalized before finalizing the spawned entities, and the root spawn batch can now be queried from outside of the entity system. A physics event was added for cluster breakage along with an entity event that detaches the corresponding compounded entity. Additionally, various optimizations were made to improve low-level data access and reduce contention. Also, the physics environment is no longer woken during the bulk destruction of brushes unless they all have a collider. Lastly, severe stalls during entity deletion as well as the network aspects of breakability were fixed. I don't recognize half of those words. I kind of maybe get what they're talking about. Brush archetypes, I think, is just... I don't know. It sounds familiar. Physics events. On the renderer, more progress was made on the Gen 12 transition. I knew that a little bit before that. A lot of work was done on particles. Among other things, the Light Atlas stage was rewritten to make use of material permutation cache, and a lot of code in the GPU particle systems was refactored and cleaned up. The particle submission code and its PSO management were rewritten as well. Furthermore, light lists are now managed per scene pass, which will eventually help simplify the tiled shading stage. Additionally, opaque sun shadows for gas clouds, image ghosting, various game post effects, water droplets, fish, flashbang, ocular migraine, blood vision, the projectile manager, RTT support functionality, and the render target debug viz were ported to Gen 12. That's a lot of stuff ported to Gen 12. Support for transient scene render passes was completed, and the collision checks for resource sets were added. Offline cube maps now use their own pipeline to allow for different feature sets. Lastly, lots of optimizations and cleanups were made all around. Regarding atmosphere and volumetric clouds, improvements were made to the Gen 12 code by adopting the transient passes made available in September. Furthermore, a preview mode was implemented to help lighting artists set up planet atmospheres. Very cool. That's actually a good idea, because a lot of people were questioning why was there suddenly bright white light in Pyro when Pyro stars should be red. That may be the answer right there, is that they were waiting for, they were just doing it in their own mode, and something like this will help them understand the atmospheres a little bit better, so they can get like a better lighting angle. So that would be something to ask if you had a chance to. On Core Engine, the team made additional improvements to entity lifetime management. This involved adding code to group objects for lifetime management and how entity deletion is handled on stream out. All legacy entity lifetime code was removed. The entity allocator was changed to be page-based. In-engine file mapping support was completed, i.e. faster P4K file access. Initial steps were done to run all game code through include what you use to remove unnecessary header discrepancies, which should ultimately lead to faster incremental compile times. Lastly, in case of failed memory allocations, it is now possible to identify relevant code owners and list them in bug reports automatically to speed up bug processing. The remainder of the time was spent supporting Alpha 3.3.18 and the Live PU. All right, I'm gonna read some translations because someone actually made a translation. I think the first paragraph has to do with spawning flora stuff like grass and allow having natural like grass patches. They want to spawn stuff around and have it scatter naturally, or at least that's what I understand of this. And the person who made that comment is someone I know who's in the industry, so I trust their like analysis of that. So that's a good thing. A lot of stuff in there. A lot of this Gen 12 stuff being moved over, which we've kind of known, and it looks like they're trying to support more, like everything being moved over to Gen 12. Which is, if you watched the Star Citizen or Inside Star Citizen 2 weeks ago, that was heavily emphasized that you want to move everything over, and they've pretty much done so. So it looks like they're in the end of that process. Features Arena Commander. So those who don't know, this is the team that was created after Firesprite was bought by Sony. In fact, one, if not multiple members of the Firesprite team who worked on the Arena Commander team or worked with Firesprite with Star Citizen actually work for Star Citizen now. So I think the lead of that team works for CIG now. And so they created their own internal team for Arena Commander, which covers Arena Commander, Star Marine, and Theaters of War. Engineering team began this month with quality of life bug fixes. They then added additional post-game score awards and fixed the bleed-out animation type. The team finished integration of Alpha 3.18's deliverables into game dev, with some minor items, including that will be addressed later. They fixed an issue with a test runner in cases where the actor died and added Jericho Station. Jericho Station was added? Are we getting Jericho internals? That's my dream. Jericho internal is fantastic. And 4 race maps to the back end, which is cool. So new races, which design also submitted levels and records for. Support continued for radar and scanning for Squadron 42, while part of the team supported an issue with vehicles not exploding upon death. A new concept was made for the dual mode pre-game, as team shifts Arena Commander's focus to being the primary competitive ranked mode. The new pre-game allows for players to select from multiple ships outside of their selected one from the front end, as well as see what their opponent has picked. This will act as the game's initial draft system. Following community feedback, additional improvements to duel mode itself were discussed and tasked. This is a brand new game. Like, they're working on a brand new Arena Commander, like a revamp from the ground up. That's what it sounds like. Similar to the Gulag in Warzone is what it sounds like. We are very pleased that the team's direction already matches public opinions. Every topic and issue brought up had already been discussed and scheduled by ACFT, Arena Commander Feature Team. Feature add-ons and bug fixing continued for the new Arena Commander 1.5 front end, including adding video backgrounds per game module. The game also explored how to improve the first deliverable of the new front end, including changes to the layout and how to make the scene feel more like a simulation. Design finished with an initial pass on 5 new racetracks: Snake Pit, Icebreaker, Rotary Station, Dunlow Derby, and Lorville Gateways. New dogfighting map, Jericho Station. So it's a dogfighting map. Okay, it's not internals, it's an exterior. Was successfully playtested and is planned for the upcoming patch. We are getting 5 race maps and a new Arena Commander dogfighting map after like 9 years, or it's more like 7 years, but that's nuts. And we're getting, we had 3 race maps. Now we have 3, let's see, move to that, 4, 6, 7, 8 new maps, 8 race maps. There's more race maps than there are dogfighting maps. Damn. This is, they said this is for an upcoming patch. So this is either 3.18 or 3.19. One of the two. Yeah, let's move on to the features and characters and weapons. I told you this is a big monthly report. Features, characters, and weapons. Last month, the features team improved the various existing features, including the ability to vault or mantle over a ledge, which can now be triggered mid-jump or fall. Oh, the thing they showed up at CitizenCon. Okay. This adds further options for the level designers when constructing on-foot traversal puzzles. Players can now look up and down while moving on a ladder to help them move where they're going. This is the new movement system. They're already implementing the new movement system in Star Citizen. If they stop, they can look around 360 degrees too. This is done by creating idle animation with 360 poses. The game then picks the frame from the asset which matches for player yaw relative to the ladder. This then becomes the base idle top, which the team can build other actions. For example, being able to jump away from the ladder in a facing direction. The ability to move all items from one inventory to another is now in the final internal test sweep. So you can just select all and pull it over, which is nice. A number of the features the team have been working on were on show during CitizenCon and really appreciate all the positive feedback received. This is some big QOL stuff. Is this coming in 3.18? I don't think this is coming in 3.18. There's no way the new movement system's coming in 3.18. Features, gameplay. In the US, work continued in the initial implementation of the cargo refactor and the new commodity kiosk UI for Alpha 3.18. This will affect buying, selling, and moving around single SCU resource cargo containers with the tractor beam after purchase and outside green zones. Gameplay features also continue to support the buying and selling of FPS refillable RMS containers and containers created by Vulture and Reclaimer. RMC. I don't know what RMC is. I think that's the little goo containers for salvage. Updates were made to the prison, including the kiosk, which received new gameplay items. Alongside this, the setup and inventories were adjusted across all shops for new commodities that come with cargo refactor. So we're getting new commodities with the cargo refactor. They also updated shops to support IAE merchandise. The shop setup for Pyro began and is ongoing. UI screens for the commodity kiosk, mission manager, and bounty hunting progressed too. So we're getting new UI screens for commodity kiosk, mission manager, and bounty hunting. So we're getting a bounty hunting screen and a new mission manager, which is good. We've been saying for a while that they want to move mission like your mission update on your mobiGlas away from being able to collect missions from the mobiGlas and more as kind of a manage your missions from there. Planning and documentation began for freight elevators and subsequent cargo refactor updates, which will begin in Q4 2022. Documentation and investment began into multi and large container cargo missions that could coincide with the delivery of T1 cargo. So it looks like at least sometime next year we're going to get version 1 of cargo with full systems that they want to implement. The Manchester and Frankfurt-based teams progressed with hull scraping, adding the finishing touches of quality of life improvements for its balance pass. Additional time was also put into fresh derelict harvestables that can spawn in space to make them look more worn and authentic. They also worked with the Montreal team to add some not clearly identifiable pieces of debris fields and help the US team with the cargo refactor. The team's work on gravity and life support is approaching final, with the remaining of the work on the resource management system that will bring it all together. I think we're going to have the resource management system at least done internally by the end of the year, which is pretty cool. Mission, and this is the thing we already saw on SCL, or ISC. So, features mission. The mission features added added polish of various missions, including a new ending to the prison escape that will add further excitement and challenge. Fist fight your way out. Fist fight your way out. That's not it, but I would love to see that. They then worked with art to further expand Jumptown Drug Lab. It is doubled in size and includes a second entrance, second drug dispenser, and multiple windows and skylights to see inside. To improve gunplay on the interior, we made it circular and removed most of the doors for longer sightlines. Jumptown 3.0, baby. Jumptown 3.0. Trespass areas were also updated so that lawful trespass and entering hostile areas are now different. The name of the org in control of the area is also shown upon entering. And once access to the area is revoked, e.g. at the end of the mission, players are shown as a countdown when they'll be trespassing should remain. Oh, cool. For those who don't know, CIG is building the org system for players, but it's the same system that they're using for in-game orgs, so like in fiction orgs. They're using the same system, similar to how Rastar is being used for player building, but also they're using every part of the buffalo. They don't want to build separate systems. They want to use all the systems they can that are the same, so that they look and act the same. So when you're doing a bunker mission where you're going in to help out, say, Crusader security at a bunker, it'll say you are now entering Crusader security jurisdiction. So you'll be going into that area, and then now they'll give you time to leave, which is pretty cool. Finally, bugs relating to crime stat and ship collisions were identified and fixed. That's nice. All right, here's the juicy one. Features vehicles. Vehicle features supported the docking and transit features. Both continue to be long-term requirements for teams, such as each release pose. Okay. Both continue to be long-term requirements for the team as each release poses new issues. Particularly with transit, which is likely to remain under the launch of the new transit system. Remain until the launch of the new transit system. The question of that is that the transit system that goes inside like settlements now? Like the subways? Or is this like people moving people? Like airlines, space liners kind of thing. Multifunction displays, MFD, progressed well, with the weapons, emissions, and ship models submitted and working in-game. The self-status screen also made it into a Squadron 42 UI stream, and tasks were started with the comms and weapons self-status MFDs. Work also began on the new version of Quantum Travel, which currently involves refactoring the current feature in preparation for rework. Yeah, Quantum Travel is completely getting overhauled. Like what they showed off at at CitizenCon is only part of it. The actual Quantum Travel system itself is changing. The HUD, the effects, everything is changing with Quantum Travel. Quantum Boost is separate now, but they're changing how Quantum Travel is supposed to work. That's something they brought up over the last several months. The team's AI support increased throughout October. This mostly focused on ship versus player boss fights in Squadron 42, with the Cutlass now flying with its new behavior on spline attacking the player. They also supported a flight team with both AI and non-AI requests. Are we going to have to fight a freaking cutlass on foot in Squadron 42? Boss music plays. Oh, God. Okay. Support for Q4 ship release began too, with Q4. Q4? Okay. All right. With tuning currently in progress alongside this, the new ground vehicle tech was further developed and will be enabled in the coming sprint. So we're getting the new ground vehicle tech. For those of you who know, it's like improving how ground vehicles handle. Before this, issues with the Drake Mule driving like a tank will be resolved. Master mode progressed well in testing. The team confirmed the speeds for SCM boost and quantum travel, and are now testing racing ships and looking into how to balance disabling ships as they change between SCM and QT. Okay, so they definitely taken CIG's heart, or the community's heart to community's complaints to heart, which is nice. We also used this opportunity to rebalance a lot of weapons, redoing the difference between in behaviors that had reset before Alpha 3.14 rework. Now weapons and equipment will start to actually matter. What you use will start to matter again. Thank you. I don't know, it's like, it's been a while, but it's literally been a year, but 3.14 was the beginning of last year, so. Recourse network support continued with the support conversation and initial work on integrating heat components. The team are currently setting out their design to support the feature, as a lot of components will need converting once the technical work is complete. A recourse? Or is this supposed to be a resource? I think it's supposed to be a resource network, so I think that's a typo. Alongside this, the aiming refactor is now almost complete, with remaining work focused on implementing the new UI. Okay. The fuck are you doing to aiming? Because the last time you fucked with aiming, you fucked everything up, CIG. What are you doing to aiming? This is definitely something you can't just slip into a monthly report and be like, oh yeah, it's almost complete. What the fuck is it? I needed an SCL or an ISC, please. A big step was made on control surfaces. Now ships gliding without thrusters have been reduced to over the previous surface model. Finally, the new restricted areas system passed its go, no-go and is now enabled. So 3.18 is going to have new restricted area system and gliding. All right, graphics and VFX programming and planet tech. In October, God, we are almost done, but like, holy shit. We're not even close to being done. Okay. Ooh. Okay. In October, the team continued to focus on damage maps, fixing missing initial damage on debris, incorrect damage map sizes, and inconsistencies between ship sizes. Time was also spent investigating networking and persistence for debris. Further progress was made on porting gas clouds and CPU particles to Gen 12. The Gen 12 GPU marker refactor was also completed, and some issues were fixed relating to the hair and hologram shaders. For ongoing data pipeline refactor, the team continued to work on skin files, allowing compacted, non-split files to be compiled or loaded. They also implemented process groups in support of multiple input formats. Developments of screen space shadows began, which involved adjusting ray tracing to account for thin objects. Work was also done on anti-alias lines for aux geometry, editor debug, and UI for use on the star map. They also added new features for the UI mesh shader, multi-scale texturing, bi/triplanar projection, smoothing, alongside enabling wetness effects to work with blood, sweat, and tears. That's a joke. That's gotta be a joke. Tears confirmed. You can now harvest salt in Star Citizen because players can cry. You should have just said moistness. They enable wetness for more moist gameplay. Moist. That's interesting. We're getting blood in game. The team closed out Rastar version 1 and fixed the remaining bugs and crashes raised by the content teams. There were also various fixes submitted for rivers. The R&D began on water sim and water rendering improvements. So they're starting to work on the water simulation and water rendering. I wouldn't expect Sea of Thieves level, but I would be over the moon if we got Sea of Thieves level of water simulation. This is the Daymar Derelict Settlement, the Star Runner entrance, the little tent right here. Lighting. Lighting continued to work on Pyro, Lorville, IAE, Orison's Racetrack, Security Post Korea, and Derelict Space Settlements. Lorville received a lighting cleanup to improve certain areas, while the level as a whole was tidied up to bring it back up to its original intended state. They also closed out various previous locations to ensure that everything is up to scratch. Here's the new racetrack, the buggy racetrack. Locations EU. The EU locations team continued to work on Pyro's rest stop, okay, making great progress on the internals of the station, and then moved focus towards the station's external arms. Like, is this rest stops or is this ruined station? Work also continued on Security Post Korea, and progress was made on the IAE event halls and cargo. They continued their ongoing task of adding life to landing zones too. Very cool. So, I mean, they've talked about Station before. I think it's probably referencing Ruined Station, which we've seen images now of because of CitizenCon. Narrative. As the rush towards IAE and Alpha 318 continued, the narrative team provided additional support to fix bugs and issues that arose through testing. For IAE, they helped deliver new content that was recorded in recent motion capture sessions. My guess is for Whitley's Guide, my guess. This was particularly exciting as we were able to utilize one of our dedicated narrative designers to build the AI behavior to hand over design to implement. Nice. So narrative is starting to get its own like built-in team to help build some stuff. That's cool. Narrative also started working with mission features on existing air traffic control behavior. This will help fix problems with the existing behavior while also supporting the newest upgrades to the system, which will then be standardized for any additional air traffic control characters and scripts in the future. I think this means that we're going to see video, like before when you called for air traffic control on your little like screen, your MFD, you would pop up, the person would pop up being like we've got something ready for you here. Here's your landing. You're authorized to land. They removed that because it was so buggy and out of date. So I guess they've implemented that as well. Seems to develop the investigate missions featured in the narrative CitizenCon video. After last month's push, the writers were tasked with coming up with sample mystery for players to investigate, to stress test the foundational system, and see how scalable the mission could be. Just look at adapt any Arthur Conan Doyle story. Just do it. Just do it. Please. In addition, they provided text for upcoming missions and open discussions on a handful of other mission types that would be coming in the next few patches. The team worked closely with the design and UI teams on some of the upcoming mobiGlas apps that will support new gameplay currently in development. Okay, new mobiGlas apps and new mission types. Next few patches. Okay, that's interesting. This probably has to do with the bounty hunting aspect that they talked about. My guess would be at this point bounty hunting, player transport, and cargo transport, because those themes seems to be the things that they're really focusing on for long term right now. Throughout October, new content was added to the website, including the Spectrum Spectator that explored the history of CitizenCon, a portfolio spotlighting Stegmans, and the return of Old Jegger in the installment of Far From Home. Finally, another installment of the Galactopedia articles made their way out to the archives onto the site. This month's anniversary of CitizenCon marks 10 years worth of content that's made its way to Spectrum Dispatch selection of the website. From the earliest days of time capsules to Cal Mason, Kid Crimson, and news updates, these weekly updates have been a great opportunity to dive deep into the Star Citizen universe. So we want to say thank you all for your enthusiasm and your support over years. No, narrative team. Thank you. Thank you. Also, I hate you. I hate all of you. Because you're writing far more things than I could ever cover on the Astro Historian. By the way, subscribe to the Astro Historian. Link will be up there. There. Do it right now. If you like lore, you want to know more about the lore and of Star Citizen, hint, it's incredibly deep. Check it out, because you're going to want to know about it in the future anyways, so might as well subscribe now. Online services. The online services team spent October compiling several remaining features, including the new character repair/reset process. Wait, what? Oh, okay. Like reset characters, okay. Some sort of healing thing? And how in-game transactions are handled. They also improved the new login flow process to allow for faster entry into the game when a player has pre-entitled account, as well as a new retry service that will resubmit a message back to the Surface application for a reattempt. Lastly, the team made quality of life update that sorts out in-game friends alphabetically. This is planned to be included in Alpha 3.18. Cool. We're almost done. Live Tools Montreal. Throughout October, the Live Tools team focused on features relating to the persistent entity streaming, specifically the implementation of the login flow module in the network operation center. This module gathers different features, including the ability to manage entitlements and rentals. It also provides more detailed and precise information to users about login details of players, enabling the detection and analysis of issues. Very cool. So this is a PES login flow module, which was the big one that they've been waiting for that they've actually been testing recently. They did a bunch of tests for login flow for 3.18. The last 2 tests were login flow issues. So, Turbulent Web Platform. The Turbulent team began the month supporting CitizenCon 2952, including the main event, the Great Cat Steve, the Crusader Spirit pages. The team continued to make improvements on the CMS tool, Alexandria, which supports bespoke web pages. The latest improvements were around the Explore video module, enabling it to add points of interest to video content. A grid module was also created to give another way to display information. Multiple teams from Turbulent contributed to the IAE promotions coming in November. For example, a new web skin was developed to emulate the expo hall, and improvements were made into the promotional ship wall. Turbulent's design team focused on generating brand alignment across the website, losing some of the legacy UI elements and bringing in a new look. Thank God. One of Turbulent's biggest launches in October was the release of the updated Community Hub. Community Hub will emerge slowly as most relevant place to see contests, events, and what other community members are live streaming or creating, which you're probably watching right now if you're watching us on the Community Hub. Hi, I'm there. I'm likely the number one that you're watching right now. Meta. As more features come online, it's very arrogant of me. I don't know if I am or not. But I usually am, which always freaks me out about that. As more features come online, it'll bring to emerge as social media platform where you can follow your favorite creators and never miss out on an in-game or live event. That would be my biggest concern with the Community Hub, is that right now it's an okay tool, but I need to be able to follow creators on that hub, making it easier for me to post content and for people to follow that content so that it tracks, so people can like gather content creators. Because if people want to know, where do I know about like Star Citizen lore or tutorials or machinima, there should be there. By the way, where's the lore page? Put lore in there. I swear to God, like I am not the only lore person. There are many of us, and it's just going to grow more. Put in a lore section. Trust me, you're going to need it. Finally, the team continued to rework the roles and access controls for improved security. All right, the UI team. The UI team continued developing the new star map. Particularly the underlying tech that allowed them to easily display it on different locations. For example, in ships, the mobiGlas, and potentially screens in levels. They also updated the controls and improved the look of planets. Alongside working in the interaction prompts seen at CitizenCon, UI continued to adapt and bug fix the loadout systems to ensure that it works with persistent streaming. I really hope we see something about the new star map before the end of the year. That'd be nice to see. VFX. October saw the VFX team complete their work on salvage and repair feature. Two vehicles continue through VFX production phase, receiving effects for thrusters, damage, atmospheric entry, quantum travel, and shields. Those would be the Drake Cutter and the Pisces C8 Rescue. The team implemented a task pool, which allows artists to tackle various miscellaneous tasks that have accumulated in the backlog. This typically consists of minor bugs and quality of life improvements, but it has been great to be able to focus on these things while continuing to support major content and features. The VFX team. All right, this was a thick update. I'm going to try to summarize it as best I can. So we know they're doing more ships. I'm going to kind of work my way backwards. The Mobiglass star map is going to be able to be displayed in ships, Mobiglass, and screen levels. New community hub. New updates to the website, which is good. PES-based login flow features. Reset, a character reset thing, which maybe allow you to get your stuff back faster if you know, rather than having to like completely reset yourself. Narrative with multiple missions. Multiple mission types. Some new motion capture stuff and stuff for the investigate missions, as well as air traffic control. Pyro got worked on, security post Correa, event halls, cargo, and adding more life to landing zones. Lighting, we got new racetracks, like a bunch of other stuff. Graphics and VFX programming. A lot of stuff being added to Gen 12 and Rastar being done. Rastar version 1 is done. You may have seen them talk about an ISE. Version 1 is finished. It's obviously not going to be the last version they work on, but it's done, which means that developers, it's a tool that developers can now use while they're building things. So that's a good sign. All of the weapons are now going to be, behaviors are now going to be updated, which is nice. Power, like resource power stuff is starting to be added. We see multiple Q4 ship releases, apparently. We have AI being able to attack from ships to ground. MFD updates. Updates to quantum travel. And transit features, which is a little weird. Jumptown has gotten too big, Jumptown 2.0 or too thick. Jumptown too thick. It's gotten doubled the size, multiple entrances, multiple drug dispensers, less easier line of sight, and it's round now. She round. As well as trespassing updates and new prison escape stuff. Let's see. So some of the cargo refactor elevators. We've got mostly cargo refactor stuff for features gameplay. Kiosks. We're getting a UI update for mission manager and bounty hunting screens. More deployable debris fields for you to use your salvage stuff on. And gravity and life support is almost done. The thing that's remaining is the management system. They got the gravity and life support finished. It's just resource management, which is left for that whole feature thing, which likely, based off their current progress, could easily be done by the end of the year, at least internally. Let's see. The new movement system is done, or close to being done. So being able to mantle and like jump off of ladders, and the new system they showed off at CitizenCon, that seemed to be finished, or at least in a state of being done. No idea if it's going to be 318 or not. Arena Commander is coming hard. New dogfighting map and 4 new racing maps. Plus a brand new overhaul with how you log in. It's a completely different way that you're going to play the game. It looks like it's a complete overhaul of how the game's going to be played. And originally they screwed up and said it was going to come in 319 or 318. And then they said it's actually not going to make it to 319. It's going to make it after 318 to 319. That may mean that because 318 got delayed, it'll end up being in 318. But my guess is that 319 is set aside to be the Arena Commander patch. where they relaunch Arena Commander from the ground up to support not only Star Citizen, but Squadron. Because for those of you who don't know, Squadron 42 also has access to Arena Commander. So that is going to be the multiplayer aspect of Squadron. You buy Squadron, you will all have access to Arena Commander, Star Marine, and Theaters of War, which seems like they're all being rebranded as just Arena Commander. So be interesting to see that. Then the engine, Gen 12. Everything's moving over to Gen 12. Then we've got community. They're going around the world. They're going to be going to Chicago. They went to Chicago, New Jersey, and Paris, and Madrid. Argo SRV is final art stage in the exterior. Armor for Security Plus Korea. New animations done for new creature. And also gameplay for delivering one person from one place to another. So having passenger gameplay and animal behavior, or not behavior, but animal animation is done. Then the AI team. I'm not even going to go through all of the AI team. Effectively, to give the highlights for this one, it's AI can now shoot from cover with large rocket launchers and the railgun. They can now attack ground targets and ground targets can attack air targets. Their behavior about like how they move, and they're not going to mantle over things unless they have to. They'll move normally. They'll scrounge for ammo and scrounge for weapons if they run out of them. There's a whole new way that like light visibility will affect how they move. You can pick up a rock and throw it, and making noise, they'll go investigate it. They'll investigate. You can distract AI now, and then like on top of all of this, you have food and drink patrons and like cargo moving AI, and freaking Van Duel doing executions on players. We're getting AI that's going to be part Hitman or like Assassin's Creed mixed with freaking Dark Souls, all wrapped up in whatever the heck CIG is doing with FPS combat. It's nuts. This is a huge monthly report. You really need to go through it and read it with a fine-tooth comb. But the short answer to this is something has happened. I don't know what it is, and I don't know when it's going to actually break, but there's a lot of content that's being finished. Likely not for 3.18, but likely shortly after 3.18 and around 4.0 or after 4.0. CIG is gearing up. The joke about the floodgates opening, oh yeah, well, I don't think we're going to see like a huge thing flood out, but this update tells me that they are well along the ways for releasing a bunch of new content. But I want to know what you think in the comments below. Am I high on the copium and the hopium? Does this feel like the same way to you as something's happening at CIG? Something's happening here. And of course, do you think these are valuable? Do you enjoy me talking about this, reading them out loud to you? I need to know these things in the comments below. And if you do, subscribe to the channel, like the video, join us live on Thursdays where we talk about this. Say hi, chat, because right after this, we're going to talk about this with the chat itself, and you'll learn a little bit more. But yeah, like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. Sorry, I have to wait for a few minutes afterwards because I usually let the music play out for like the end screen. So I'm not done yet. We're still going. I just wanted to let that up. What do you all think? Because I just skimmed it before doing this, and I still didn't even catch everything. Holy Jesus Christ. CIG AI team, calm the fuck down. Like, holy shit, I want to play this game, not get murdered. So do you think we're in the fourth phase of development, like Tomato said? I feel like we're heading into a new phase of development. And I personally have believed for a long time that the last two major hurdles that CIG has to tackle is persistence and server meshing. Quanta is another big thing, but Quanta is already in the game. Like, a lot of people don't realize that Quanta is not finished, but the basic building blocks of Quanta is already active. So what they have to wait for now is more for the Quanta to be more actively developed. So that may hold back mission development a little bit, but most basic gameplay stuff is blocked by persistence and by server meshing. The AI, for instance, is blocked by server meshing. So I don't think we'll even get a lot of Quanta development until after server meshing is implemented. So, especially after 3.18 is implemented, or PES implemented. PES is implemented. So I don't know if we're heading into the fourth phase, but we're definitely heading into post-alpha phase. We're heading into the phase where alpha is wrapping up, and we're heading more towards a beta phase. I know, I said Theaters Vor, I said beta, laugh, whatever, but that's the trajectory we're going on. That could mean beta in 2 years, it could mean beta in 5 years, but the answer is something is changing in terms of the trajectory and speed upon which CIG is producing things. I have never seen CIG produce this stuff this fast. I'm excited, but I feel like there's a lot of that's been implemented for Squadron 42 that we've yet to see. If it's because they're waiting for server meshing, that's fine, but it's not worth getting excited over until server meshing is over. I'm a bit disappointed in the T0 cargo refactor. I was expecting a lot more from it. This will only be a change for pirates. It hasn't changed my daily training life. Yeah, I mean, I said that. I've been saying that for weeks now, for almost a month now, that don't get hyped about the cargo refactor. It's just, it never struck me as something that would be big. In fact, I've been saying this since before that. We sat down in this office hours a while back, and we looked at the actual thing, what they said, and read exactly what they said. And I said, we are not going to get what people want. It's just the cargo and maybe timers for loading and unloading your stuff. We're going to get the kiosk, and that's what we got. We got the kiosk, and we're getting the cargo, and that's it. Nothing else. And thank you, who was it? Thank you, Deepa, for going absolutely ham. It's the Canadian insurance rubbing off. The guys who gave CIG that 40 to 50 million are going to pull funds if they don't produce Squad 42, so they have to jump on AI and quality of life to push Chapter 1. For sure, but the thing is that it's important to remember that anything that's done in Squadron is not too difficult to port back into Star Citizen, because they are not just different. They're not different. The same game on, they're not like, oh, they're built on the same engine. They're the same game. They're built on the fundamental same architecture. The only difference between Squadron 42 and Star Citizen is that Squadron 42 is a single-player game, so anything that requires online functionality isn't as important, but they're going to run off the same engine, they run off the same AI, they run off the same flight mechanics, everything is the same. Oh, but you have more, you actually have cutscenes in Squadron. It's a major difference, but they're the same game. So the reason why they moved stuff over to Squadron was because they wanted to develop everything in-house at a tier 1 level to get it done and ready to go in Squadron before they port it over to Star Citizen. Because they even said themselves that it's really difficult to piecemeal things, because they'll release a half of a part of tier 0 and then they forget it exists, and then come back. When they finally come back to it and they've developed all these other systems around it, they have to completely scrap what they did 2 years ago and then rebuild it from scratch anyways. So it made a lot more sense for them to build everything out at once to get to a tier 1 level and then port it into Star Citizen. That means it's going to take longer to do. It's going to be done on Squadron and not Star Citizen. But when it comes eventually back into Star Citizen, it will be a little bit more complete. I think I was rated. Thank you, Captain, for the 3 months of support. Oh, shit. Spleen Shepherd, how you doing, buddy? Sorry about that. I got caught up in all the discussion. How you doing, Spleen Shepherd? I'm terrible at catching things. Doing great? Awesome. We just went through the monthly report. It's a thick one. It's a thick one. The IC was good, but like this monthly report is nuts. The thing another thing that makes me a little bit more optimistic about some of the stuff like this is that CIG isn't saying shit about it. Because CIG is not saying shit about it, the new way that CIG works is they'll tell you everything they're working on, but they're not going to trumpet it. The reason why is because they don't want to get people's expectations up for version 0. So they're quiet until they get a much better idea, at least on ISC and SCL, until they get a much better idea of how that system will function in-game. But if they're just in the initial stages, they'll talk about it all the time in SCL and ISC because it's more of like, hey, this is what we're planning on doing in the future. But they're not doing that anymore. So... I don't think we're going to get 2022 Chapter 1. I do think we're going to get Chapter 1 or the first game of Squadron 42 by 2025. Because CIG needs at least a year to prepare for Squadron 42. They need at least a year for hype and marketing build-up. They need to talk to people like Henry Cavill and Mark Hamill and Gillian Anderson and John Rhys Davies and all of the characters and actors who play in Squadron 42 and get them to do some stumps for them, get them to do all that kind of stuff. For me, my understanding, cargo refactor has always just been physicalized cargo and nothing more. Yeah, but the problem has to do with setting expectations that, like, if you read what CIG was promising, it's exactly what they were promising. But they haven't gone out and said, this is what you should expect. They haven't gone on ISC. They didn't go on SCL. They didn't go on Spectrum and say, yo, this is just cargo. This is just us putting cargo in your grids. Don't expect anything else from that. If they had done that a month ago, a lot of people would be less, a lot more people would be less frustrated with it. I think that's the key to remember, is that, like, treat the community like morons, because we are morons, and most people don't really read in Star Citizen, and relying on people like me to give people factual information. First of all, this video is going to get at most 3,000 views. You average 50,000 people a day for your fucking game. The majority of people who play Star Citizen have no fucking idea who I am. And on top of that, people like Board will read the news, but Board won't analyze the news, really. He's just reading it. And because he's not analyzing it, they don't know. He's just saying word for word. So they're still going to use the same sort of, oh, this is what it means, kind of come up with their own ideas. So you have to be explicit, because you can't rely on people like me or Board to give your message, or even Nubifier, because we'll miss things. We'll not tell you what the, or as Board or as Nubifier will say, give you the bullshit, because the bullshit is often analysis based off of observation, which what we need to be able to understand what they actually mean. Thank you, Deepa. They don't correct people theory crafting loftier expectations. They don't, but they didn't, but they should have, as weird as to say, they should anticipate it. This is Star Citizen. This community does this all the time. And being very specific on expectations early on is a great way of managing. Because if you're specific and you're like, I'm going to be as cynical as possible to the community. This is what we're planning on doing, and we're not going to go any further. And then later down the line, you go, hey, by the way, we managed to expand it, so now the feature set is much bigger than it was before. People would lose their fucking minds. They'd be super happy. Be like, oh, that sucks. Oh, wait, you added something new? That's really cool. That's great. You're under promising and over delivering. That's what I'm saying. Under promise and over deliver, but more publicly. They don't say that, though, Del. They mention it in places where nobody reads. They need to do it on ISC. They need to do it in SCL. They need to do it in the forums or in Spectrum, very specifically. Otherwise, no one will read it. No one will care. Because people do not read. The Star Citizen community does not follow development. They let people like me follow development for them. Which is stupid, by the way, but I get why, because people just do not have time in their day to care about a fucking video game. So they rely on people who get paid for it. This music? Are you hearing like weird coming in and out there, Roland? That's Twitch. It sounds normal on my end. It's just Star Citizen music. But if you're hearing the weird, it's a Twitch codec issue. You're going to have to either refresh the stream or clear your cache. Oh, it's awesome. This is Squadron 42. This is Star Citizen soundtrack, Roland. This is a compilation of Star Citizen music. Exactly. A former coworker of mine, now at Turbulent, told me that they were making entire solar systems now because CIG liked their work on hospitals and other areas, but it's not written anywhere. I mean, to be fair, Ubi, that was what the purpose of Turbulent was in the first place. Like, they were supposed to build entire solar systems. That was literally, if you see at like their what they were hiring for on their website, that's what they were doing. The whole purpose of Turbulent Montreal is, or I guess CIG Montreal, the Turbulent like game development stuff, from the get-go was take the tools that CIG built and then have them make the stuff, because now that they have the tools, they can just pump that shit out, because that's their sole job, is to pump it out. Yeah, I guess they're only help the server side of things. Turbulent, the web developer, was designed for the server side of things. The gameplay side of Turbulent was always designed to mass manufacture systems. And they didn't talk about Turbulent on ISC. I feel like they're afraid of telling people, telling players, no, this isn't what the game's going to be. Yes, they are very much afraid of that. Because a lot of people have crazy ideas of what this game is going to be in the end, and a lot of people are going to be upset. Like, for instance, there was a discussion we had on Discord about, like, some people think, oh yeah, PvP is going to be so much more prevalent. Everyone needs to know PvP, and because that's what Avenger 1 likes to say a lot, is that every player who knows Star Citizen... God damn it, Deepa. I thought you were going to bed. Deepa's gifted like most of, like 90% of my subs. I've got like 200 subs or memberships on YouTube, and they're all been gifted by Deepa. What was I saying? Avenger 1 is fond of saying that people need to learn how to PvP because you're going to be forced into PvP. It's just the nature of the game. And I disagree, but I don't disagree. And that's an example, of how I think some people are looking at this game as, this is Tarkov in space. And the reality is no, it's not Tarkov in space. It has heavy Tarkov elements, but it's also going to have heavy Hitman elements and heavy Dark Souls influences. So it's a little bit of a mashup of a lot of different stuff, but I wouldn't buy Star Citizen to exclusively PvP, because that's just not going to be the main source of anything in Star Citizen. But on the flip side, there are people who are getting this game thinking they can be Jean-Luc Picard and have an entire NPC crew and explore strange new worlds and find brand new systems all the time, which is not going to happen either. There's a lot of people on all sides of this of the community who think this game is going to be something it's not. But I also know that CIG is very reticent to correct them, because I don't think even CIG fully understands exactly what they're going to do. They have a good idea, but that idea can change. It's the nature of game development. Games have been completely rewritten multiple times in the past. Games that started off at RTSs end up as FPS. Games that are, designed as stealth action games or MMOs become arena shooters. Like, they happen all the time depending on which way things are going and what works and what doesn't. I settle for being a lady Han Solo dragging a ragtag group with me on misadventures. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Welcome all, join this awesomeness. Good night all. Have a good night, Deepa. The Ricard Fantasy, the reason I want a CIG eventually to make single player Star Citizen. Yeah, but they're not going to do that. It's an online game. Players theory crafting may also give CIG ideas. They do, for sure. But it's important to note that there is an idea of what Star Citizen is going to be. And a lot of that idea doesn't align with what people think. Eventually, like 10 years after release, I think you'll see a single-player version of Star Citizen in the same vein as Wing Commander Privateer. I think you'll see something like Privateer or Freelancer, the original game Freelancer, as a single-player experience down the line. But post-Squadron 42 trilogy. Had Star Citizen pop on my tube. Looks like whoever's in charge really inspired by your channel's motif poly. This? I don't know. Maybe. They do a lot. They do a lot better job if they're inspired. I'm more worried about AI pirates than player pirates and baddies. We're probably going to see AI pirates, but that's not going to be until 4.0. Like, just the game can't handle that. I mean, we do have pirates now, but like pulling you out of quantum and doing weird shit to you. Nah, I think that's what they're planning, is Squadron 42 at the end of Q4 2024, but I don't think they're going to make it. I think it's going to be Squadron 42 Q2 or 3 2025. We're so far away from Squadron 42, it's not even, there's no real point in really following it, except for the fact that a lot of content that's going to Squadron is locked up in Squadron until it's finished, its version 1, and then being ported over to Star Citizen. Star Citizen is a game of 3 parts: speculation, CCU chains, and then the universe. Yes, Pyro will definitely come out before Squadron 42. Pyro's going to come out next year at some point. More than likely at the end of the year, but I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. You all be virtually 2 ways away from Squadron 54. Yep. That's just the way that the nature of how, what's it called? Agile development works. You can't really think out beyond 2 years. So there'll be 2 years, it'll be 2 years out until it's not. Which is what CIG has said. Effectively, they said we're not going to announce anything, and CIG has never announced anything about Squadron 42 in an official capacity. Everything, not since the 2016 Answer the Call debacle, they have never really sat down and said, "Oh yeah, Squadron 42 is coming out exactly on this year." Agile breaks down after 2 weeks. It's always been agile development, not knowledge. Agile's been part of the development process since the beginning. Staggered development is just a way that you stagger the development, and staggered development is already in the game. That's the reason why we've had more content from patch to patch. That's a great way of saying, lol lamau is a great way of saying, I had no idea what you're talking about. Which is understandable. I get it. Once they nail server meshing, adding systems will only be a matter of making them and plugging them in. The hard part about systems is not really making the systems. The hard part about the systems, once you have server meshing in, is the landing zones. Because landing zones have to be unique, they have to be interesting, they have to function, they have to have AI, they have to have like unique mission givers, and there's lots of aspects of the landing zones which are much more complicated because they're bespoke, not just procedurally generated like stations can be. So there's a lot more complicated things. The one thing that will be easier is Nyx, because we already have the landing zone for Nyx. It's Delamar. So all they really need to do is make the system, which will be a lot faster for them to make Nyx than it will be for them to have made Pyro. Not just a lot of game development studios use Agile. Most like software development companies use Agile. Do you think they will silent drop Nyx with Pyro, since Nyx is considered finished even CIG? I don't know if it's considered finished to CIG. So I'm sure they have other things they want to add that are more different. But it really depends on when Pyro comes out. If Pyro and 4.0 drop at the end of the year, there is a possibility we'll see Nyx drop at the same time. But if Pyro comes out sooner, then no, I don't think that's going to be the case. It's still only a possibility because I think CIG doesn't want to burn out the devs by having them work on Nyx while they're working on Pyro, and Pyro isn't even finished yet. Because there's a lot of other factors like narrative, but we do know that they are gearing towards Nyx. They've already started to work on the planets of Nyx. They've already started to work on some of the mission givers and some of the narrative lore that we've been pulling out. We've been hearing some things about that they've been kind of delving into. So Nyx is definitely getting the look in that Pyro got about 2 years ago. But Pyro is very different. Like Nyx can be a desolate system. It can be a system that is very underpopulated and not super interesting, because it's the third system, not the second system. As long as it has interesting locales or good hooks for gameplay. Well, right, but does that mean the artist has to go to edit landing zones? But other than this, that means an artist has to go in and edit landing zones. But other than this, it's not that complicated. Like I said, once server meshing is in, we will likely see a few ones come online every year. Yeah, I think once they get the pattern down, especially with Montreal, because Montreal is where they put crack in the poutine. The team there, which, as you know, is full of Ubi devs. And if there's one thing Ubi devs are good at, is just churning shit out fast once they have the tools ready for it. I think at least by the time Squadron 42 comes out, we will see probably 2 systems drop every six months. Maybe a system every 3 months. I think 2025 will probably be the first year we see a system every patch, every quarter patch. Yeah, we're good at making tons of content fast, that I know. Well, the thing that a lot of people criticize Ubisoft, which is I think a rightful criticism of Ubisoft, but is also one of the reasons why Ubisoft is so flexible and is able to make so much content, is that Ubisoft really focuses on making standardized tools and methods for all of their games, and then that means that you can make a Far Cry game in 2 years. Because all you really have to worry about is the actors and the bespoke elements that come with the game situation, but you can use a lot of the resources and tools you already had built for previous games to just flow into the next one. Now, that's good because it means you can produce unique games using tools that are effective frequently. This is something that has been done by developers all over the world for years. I mean, Mass Effect 2 to Mass Effect 3, same concept. The downside is that you risk making everything a amorphous blob, which is what I think Ubisoft mostly suffers from, is the amorphous blob syndrome, where all of their games kind of blend together. Far Cry is Far Cry is Far Cry. You're not going to really see any unique differences unless the story is really gripping, and the story doesn't seem to be as well decided in, say, a Far Cry game. But you saw that the differences between, like, Assassin's Creed Unity versus Assassin's Creed, was it Origins? The split where they went back to, like, ancient Egypt. That split was massive because that team went down and just rebuilt the whole system from scratch and made it a much better system. And then the release after that was better. The release after that was better. But now we're reaching into that stage of kind of like everything is sort of becoming more muddled because it's kind of the same thing over and over again. But you also have, Black Flag. Assassin's Creed Black Flag is fantastic, but it's an experiment. But it was using the same tools that they made for Assassin's Creed 3. Question: how much do you think Nyx's getting added will impact the PU compared to Pyro? I think it's going to impact it more, but not in the way that many people think. Because I think Pyro is an important system because it's the second system, but Nyx being the third system, because Nyx isn't the same as Pyro. Pyro is Mad Max. Nyx is Rebel Outpost. It's Yavin 4. So the people of Nyx are all radicals, revolutionaries, and anti-government types. But generally speaking, they want to keep other more violent extremists out of their backyard. So you can think of them as like kind of a mini state. They're kind of like an independent country trying to stay out of the crosshairs of the giant empire that they're right on the border of. So the gameplay there will be very different from Pyro, and will have more of an impact because you'll be able to see narratively what the outsiders look at the UEE, but it'll also still be peaceful. So you'll see a lot of trade opportunities that'll go off in like legitimate trade opportunities in Nyx, where they want like medical supplies, or they'll have some rare materials that they can then trade back at Stanton for high profits. But you got to go through Pyro. The original Far Cry engine, yes. Odyssey was my favorite Assassin's Creed since Assassin's Creed 2. Odyssey is fantastic. Does the Nyx system in Texas? Not really. Nyx system is more like Austin, if it's using the Texas analogy. They are hyper-revolutionary. Nyx, the People's Alliance of Levski, is a fucking communist organization. They're commies. They're space commies. Space commies and space hippies. They're more like Cuba. That would be the best way of putting it. Nyx is Cuba. They're on the border of this giant empire that could squash them in a moment. So they try not to be too loud, but they really don't like that empire. Yeah, aging space hippies, yeah. Sounds like a fun place. Well, that's what I mean. Like, Pyro is like, you know, witness me. Like, it's a giant crime war that's going on constantly inside of a dying star that's going to irradiate you to death. Nyx is a dark nebula. It's on the edge of a dark nebula, so it's very hard to see anything inside of it. It's difficult to manage and navigate, and they mostly just want to be left the fuck alone. If it's Mad Max, well, Space Australia is almost certainly Lear, because Lear has habitable systems from the jump. Like, Lear is habitable. It's not, it wasn't terraformed to be habitable. They had like multiple habitable planets in it. And everything in the Lear system wants to kill you. It's all just horrible and disgusting and hot. and it's filled with criminals and psychopaths and dangerous creatures that are either designed to blow up in your face or eat you. So it's Australia. Just needs emus. I liked Odyssey, but I'm not a fan of the gear system. It was just it was just at the time where all games were being open world gear grinds. They became more garbage live service models we have now. Someone asked earlier if I think we're going to see a Star Citizen become a live service model. Star Citizen is a live service. All MMOs are live service. Like I don't know how to like break that to people. Like that was the from the get-go, Star Citizen was a live service. They even reference it as a live service now. It's a live service game. If it's not trying to kill you, it's thinking about killing you, yeah. It's because you can make most money. I don't think Star Citizen is trying to be a live service because they're trying to make more money. I think Star Citizen's a live service just because it's the thing that fits its design philosophy. Because Star Citizen's never going to be finished developing. It will always be in development. There will be a 1.0 live hoorah launch at some point between now and the heat death of the universe. As long as Chris Roberts keeps making money, he's going to do it. But like most live service games are there to make billions of dollars a day and try to drain people's wallets dry as quickly as possible. Star Citizen is much more based off the idea that Star Citizen makes fucking nothing in terms of money compared to those games. It's designed, everything that's made in Star Citizen goes back into Star Citizen because they just want to keep it going. The emus flew off into space and became the Devarin. Based. 2036 is going to be a hell of a year for Star Citizen. Yes. The MMOs are a different type of live service. Yes, but they are a live service game. Just like any other MMO. Like, you can compare Star Citizen to EVE or to WoW or to New World. They're going to always be online until they can't be. They'll constantly be sending updates. They'll never be fully finished. Even Squad Daisy and other indie games keep updating. Some are 2.0 already. Yeah. CR's children could very well take over and finish the game at some point. I don't know how old they'll be. They are, but probably could be a teenagehood, right? They're about 10 and 12 years old, I think. And CIG is a private company, which there's less pressure for price gouging. Yeah, there's a lot less pressure from CIG for making money because they're not a publicly traded company. So the only thing they have to worry about is the owners, which is Chris, and then a couple of other smaller owners, but they're mostly there to make money so they can get money back through investments because they invested for advertising. I have a feeling that, and everyone knew this, that the people who invested to become members of the board were friends of Chris and Aaron, who were all media people who work in advertising. They helped buy the company, not buy the company, but they invested in the company so that they can advertise. They want to advertise Star Citizen and Squadron. They want to be they want to use that money. It's shady as shit, but that's the way the business works these days. They're only 15% of CIG. Yeah, they're very small, but because they only gave like $50 million, which is it's like only $50 million. Star Citizen's made $500 million. So. But yeah, not controlling interest, no. But both of them are famous. Like the two or three investors I have heard about were famous for owning media companies, like advertising agencies. $50 million isn't much for a game of this scale. $50 million is a lot for marketing, though, which is what it was. A lot of people have been theorizing was that it's an advertising agency that's spending $50 million. They're hoping that CIG will reinvest that $50 million into advertising, and they'll hire those firms to do it. So it's important to remember as well how development works with games like Star Citizen. It can take forever to build the basic aspects of the game, and then it can take even further, like even longer when you get to the closer to the end. But once you've reached the end, like the end of danvelopment, you can have not a lot of things done, and then suddenly everything gets done. A good example of this is Elite Dangerous. Elite Dangerous had, I think, 20, maybe 50 systems in game when it first went into beta. And I'm not even kidding. It was a very limited number of systems in beta. They didn't have the millions upon billions of trillions of systems. But once they went from beta to live, they just flicked a switch and suddenly, boom, the entire galaxy populated. Like just instantly. Because they had the tools they were developing while they were developing those systems. I don't think we're going to see billions of mostly empty systems. But the point being is that, like, that's how quickly it turned out. It wasn't like that they had to do that, like they just turned on the systems and they ran. But that with ED was mostly procedural. Not sure Star Citizen will be. Star Citizen is mostly procedural. Star Citizen is like 90% procedural, 10%, or at least the goal is 90% procedural, like 10% actual work. And with every new tool they develop, as Tree will tell you, they make it faster and easier to make. They've actually already developed a procedural like placement tool for, or I should say, Montreal has developed a procedural placement tool to allow them to take work that would take a week and do it in an hour. It's just Star Citizen to build their code 3 times. They have to weed out legacy bugs, files that are like lost to time. Yet in Star Citizen, each systems will be various cities and cultures, design styles. Incorrect. Star Citizen has a set number of architectural styles which they've already blocked out and finished. And no, most systems do not have cities. Only a handful of systems have multiple cities. Pyro, for instance, only has one landing zone, Ruin Station. Nyx has only one landing zone, which is Delamar, Levski. Let's see. There are no landing zones in... I think there's one small landing zone in Odin, which is the main place for Squadron 42. Castra has one landing zone, Sherman, and it's located on the top of a mountain. Then you have, let's see what else there. Magnus has one landing zone, which is, I can't remember the name of it. There's one landing, it's the headquarters of Drake. And I can almost guarantee you, the architecture structure you see in places like Castra and Lorville will be mimicked in Magnus. Magnus the Red? No, Magnus is a star system in Star Citizen. It's actually got a jump point from Stanton to Magnus as well. Boreal, I believe, is the name of the planet. I can't remember. Boreal in the Magnus system. The vast majority of Star Citizen locations have one landing zone. And the more landing zones they build, the more they have that tool set. And they're just going to populate a lot of these landing zones with similar tool sets. I think they have a set of like 7 different architecture styles they've developed. And I think they've used maybe 3 so far. They've fully developed 3 of them. So each system they add, they're building out those tile sets. So once you've reached those tile sets totals, then it becomes much easier to populate these cities. And the cities are procedurally generated. They're all procedurally generated. They go in and touch up on things, but like the landing zones themselves, where you walk around on the inside, are the only places that are hand placed. Everything else is procedural. I expect them to be very different, but alien assets take up less than 5% of the game. There's a system that's just a black hole. It's called TAMSA. It's got one gas giant in it. That's it. There's no landing zone. There's also Baker, which has one landing zone, which is a station, but it's got 2 suns. There's also the Pulsar, which is the Banshee system, which has one landing zone, which is an underground landing zone called, I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it's got an underground landing zone. Min has no sun. Min is literally just a gas giant. Like, there's Nemo, which is just a floating platforms. That's it. They just have a floating platform for a landing zone, but it's all water. So like a lot of the systems are already like very basic. They maybe have one landing zone, but the tile sets will be very similar. I don't think Chris Roberts is going to go settle until each city is different, seemingly unique. They'll get procedurally with tools, great. But I imagine they'll start with some fine touches and done zone per system. They've already developed those tools for that procedural generation, though. That's partially what Montreal is doing right now with Lorville. Like, the tools are already done. The issue is not the tools. The issue is not them developing it. The issue is having the people to develop it and having the back-end systems. The back-end system for Star Citizen is 4.0. We need to have 4.0 out before server meshing, before they can start working on other systems anyways. Null is huge and empty as fuck. Yeah, look at the star map. The star map is massive. Like, there are, of course, some systems which are super heavily populated. MacArthur, or what is that name? I don't remember that. It's MacArthur is the planet. I can't remember the name of is it Keel or Killian? I think it's the Killian system. And then you've got Terra, you've got Sol, you have Croshaw, you have the planet with green on it. I can't remember the name of that. The planet just called Green. That's hugely developed and massive. There are definitely some systems that are very massive developed with multiple landing zones on them, and multiple planets and stuff like that are well developed. But that's maybe 7 planets, 7 systems out of the entire game. And one of those is Stanton. Get crowshawed! Yeah. Yeah, Killian is almost 200 AU. It is massive. It's the headquarters of the UEE Navy. The UEE military is basically their headquarters. Ellis system. Thank you, your DJ. Yeah, so Ellis is another one of those really highly developed ones. Yeah, TAMSA is huge, but it's a black hole. TAMSA is a black hole. Next, we'll probably get more than one landing zone. The Monroe will need it in a home. That's why they have outposts, my dude. That's why do you think they're working so much on these different outposts, the colonial outposts? They'll definitely give the Monroes a colonial outpost as a home headquarters, but they won't bother building a city for them. Y'all should visit UEE headquarters. I heard they're doing tours. For those who don't get that, that's a joke. You approach. I think it's Celine is the name of it. You approach the headquarters of the UEE Marines. They don't even tell you. They don't radio and tell you to get the fuck off. They just shoot you with a battle fleet in orbit. Corin, thank you. You get too close, they just shoot you. No warnings, nothing. You're just dead. Marines don't fuck around Corin. They'll turn you into Swiss cheese and then eat a nice sandwich while watching your body burn. Because Marines are hard as fuck in Star Citizen. Reposting to have your opinion on this. Sorry, I didn't see that, Ubi. What do you think exploration will be like? If all systems are known to man, then what's left to explore? I mean, let me put it this way, Ubi. How much of our current planet do we have 100% knowledge about? And how much of our planet changes frequently? We've been observing our own solar system now for hundreds of years. And for almost 100 years, we've had satellites exploring the various aspects of our solar system. But yet we still don't fully understand the full solar system. Exploration is going to be mapping and updating maps for these massive areas. Killian alone is 200 AU, and most of Killian has never been explored. In fact, only one ship has ever reached the Oort cloud of the Killian system, and that's the first Carrack. The first UES Carrack was built when it was built. Its first test flight was to explore the Oort cloud, which was again in game, like years outside of actual quantum travel to get there. Most of the Star Citizen systems are huge and changing, so they constantly need to be updated. So you will be constantly updating maps and scanning areas which haven't been updated in a long time to find new information. You're not going to be braving brand new worlds that no one has ever seen before, but you might be exploring a cave that no one's ever been to before on a planet that's been known for hundreds of years. We still don't fully understand the ocean or women. Yeah, and you still might find a jump point. There are going to be systems which will be unexplored, which will be brand new that CIG will populate for players to find. But those are few and far between. Most of exploration is going to be mapping and updating current maps. Lots of planets and moons are lightly explored. Same with scanning massive asteroids and fields and nebula, etc. Yeah. Also, mapping ever-changing jump tunnels. Yeah, because jump tunnels aren't supposed to be permanent. They're fluid. They're viscous. They move. You can think of them as rivers. They jump the banks and they form new tributaries all the time. So, mapping and remapping areas is important. You're never going to get billions of stars. That's just not how CIG works. Not making meaningful exploration with billions of stars. Plus, you might find new jump points that connect to already known systems. That's an easy way of adding new jump points, is finding a jump point that connects one system to another that we've never heard of before. Like, not that both the systems aren't explored, but now there's suddenly a new pathway from Terra to Sol, a direct route if they needed to. And CIG could add that as they want to. This is the kind of commercial voice related this to exploration, where they can scan atmosphere and planet's content. I really like to be able to discover new places like this. Probably not going to happen too often in Star Citizen. Not really going to be. I mean, you might be the first. It might be the first time you've discovered it, but you're not going. That's not what's going to happen in Star Citizen itself. You could find an interesting asteroid or comet, which is like a rogue comet where you can like discover the interiors of. I also imagine we will also have a gamified rep system for exploration that will offer progression-style experience for each profession. Not necessarily for progression. I mean, you're going to see, like, how reputation will work is you will get access to more tools or locations based off of how, and better missions based off of how well your reputation is. Paul, go to bed. Yeah, it's probably a good time for me to wrap up here shortly because it's over 4 hours, but I am answering some questions. I hope CIG is mean and has a new jump point you can find that leads to Vanduul systems. I'm sure they will. That's another thing. There are a bunch of Vanduul systems that we haven't discovered yet. We know they exist because Vanduul came out of a fucking jump point into a system, but we've never been back to through that area. So, you think they'll have special small ships to ships jump points? Yeah. Small jump points will exist. I serve one function, go to bed function. With randomly generated planets, at least one will have a boob-shaped mountain, and that's up for us to find. Strategically speaking, a lot of fun can be had with ephemeral jump points. I don't think they'll go hard on ephemeral jump points, though, because that becomes a little bit more too random, you know? With those asteroids, I wonder if we'll be able to also build out our own hot bases where we could see susceptible to being taken over or being destroyed. I think CIG would like to do something like that for sure, because they've showed that off in the past of asteroid bases. Like think the sorry, I'm making fart noises with my hand. I am tired. I should go to bed. We've actually seen them do some stuff with Squadron 42. Like one of the videos they showed, they ended the jump right at a station. So, but think like UGFs, underground facilities, but on asteroids. Could be the alien systems that you could discover jump points to farther ones from the UE systems. Yeah, you could. How do you envision governing ethics of possible independent Terran Republic? The governing ethics? You're never going to see an independent Terran Republic. I mean, you might see the split between Terra and Earth, which almost certainly is going to happen. The East and Western empires will split apart each other, but it's hard to tell. Paul, is there any precedent lore for a lady title? Yeah. Sure. Royalty still exists. The thing to remember is that the UEE is not an empire so much as that it's a federal republic. Most planets have independent governing bodies, and most planets' independent governing bodies also contain multiple states, like nations inside of those planets. So like Mars could be made up of 14 different countries that make up the whole of Mars, which is then represented in the UEE. So there could definitely be a place that has more holdovers. England still exists. Other royal nations with royal heritage still exists. It could easily be places that have royal titles as ancestral titles that they use. Yeah. Culture is culture. How about star systems that are charted but have very volatile jump points? Probably, but it's really like the problem when you're dealing with like jump points as the main discovery of things is you're never going to have enough jump points to satisfy everyone. And if you do, it'll be so volatile and so random that it'll be almost pointless. You're just basically giving people the ability to chart a jump point that's going to collapse the second they finish it. So. Earth will be Roma and Terra Byzantium. Yep. Roma will be invaded by the barbarians. Vanduul. Yep. Well, it's past 1 a.m. here, and I'm hopping out. Thanks for the stream and conversation. Have a good one, everyone. Have a good night there, Montreal. Ah. Sneezy. All right, y'all. I'm going to go to bed. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube. Make sure you hit that follow button if you're watching this on Twitch. We do this every Thursday. Check out The Astro Historian, youtube.com/TheAstroHistorian for lore content. Saturday, I'm going to be posting a lore video specifically, and I mean specifically, about alien interactions with humans. I may break this up into 2 lore videos, but I want to do one that's going to talk a little bit about Crossroads, the latest lore conversation, because it brings up a lot of content, a lot of new information about the Tevarin that we've not known before. Traditional Tevarin pirate weapon called the Bakar, or Bakar, I think. I can't remember the name of it. It's like a hatchet version of a polearm. And then there are some references to that I think are references to the Rijora. There is discussion about, you know, the outside Tevarin versus inside the Tevarin. Tevarin who want to make their own way versus Tevarin who want to assimilate into the UEE. Baka. And then there's also a new lore piece from Jump Point, which talks about Jerry, the first Banu to ever talk with a human, the first contact with the first Banu that human ever came in contact with, the first alien, like sentient, sapient alien species that humans ever came into contact with. His story, or their story, because no genders with the Banu, their story, and how complicated and kind of sad it was. And very Office Space, their story is. And then also the Xi'an flight suits, that kind of thing. It's kind of cool things as well. There's a lot of content for alien stuff, so we'll see how it goes. Jerry Lewis. He's actually got his name sounds kind of like Jerry. It was like Javi or something like that. But anyway, I'm going to be doing a video on that, and then Wednesday I'm going to do a video. Next Wednesday I'm going to do a video on the, I'm trying to name it. I think I'm going to call it the hammer. The hammer of the UEE. The UEE, the Aegis Javelin. Because it is definitely the main frontline weapon of the UEE Navy. We're going to talk about its history, its development, its very, very effective use against the Vanduul, and its where it is currently. So, by the way, did you know that the Javelin has fucking VIP quarters and is modular? Anywho, thank you for watching. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.